Chapter 26. Under the same night sky, no one was sleeping in the meeting hall of the misty mountain villa. In the meeting hall at night, countless butter candles as thick as a boy's arm were lit. The whole meeting hall was as bright as day. Compared to the hustle and bustle during the day, there were only 6 people in the meeting hall. Yes, there were 6 of them. They were the famous misty 6 tigers in Jianghu. Oh, Peng was still sitting in the chair of the faction leader. On his left was the eldest, Hu Yuni, and the second, Li Jian. On his right was the 4th, Shangguan Fenglu, the 5th, Lu Qingyang, and the 6th, Su Peihua. The eldest, Hu Yuni, was a robust, middle-aged man. He was dressed plainly and even looked a little mature. At first glance, people would think that he was an old farmer. His appearance was also ordinary, with thick eyebrows and big eyes. He was summoned back by the faction's emergency signal, but he didn't seem to be in a hurry to ask questions. He slowly tasted the green tea in his hand. The second, Li Jian, was a tall man with a thin face. He wore a green robe and held a sword in front of his knees. His face was cold and indifferent. He really lived up to his name. At this time, Li Jian also lowered his head and squinted his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. Opposite him, Lu Lao was a short and fat man. He was dressed even more crudely, even revealing the black hair on his chest. There were 2 Xianhua axes at his feet. On the table beside him was not tea, but a small wine pot. This guy's style really didn't match his name. At this time, he didn't pick up the small wine pot to take a sip. From time to time, he would look at Peng, the eldest and the second. Finally, he focused on Shangguan Fenglu and Shangguan Fenglu, who were whispering to each other. Shangguan Fenglu and Shangguan Fenglu obviously knew why they came to discuss things at night. Their faces were full of excitement as they whispered to each other. Originally, Shangguan Fenglu's seat was at the back, but he desperately swapped with Lu Lao so that he could be closer to Shangguan Fenglu. Lu Lao anxiously looked at the 2 people whispering to each other. He couldn't hear anything. He was so anxious that he scratched his ears and cheeks. But this was the meeting hall, so he couldn't make a noise. He could only angrily gulp down wine and wait for Peng to speak. Peng also seemed to be thinking about something, and did not pay too much attention to his fellow disciples. Peng waited until all the brothers in the hall were a little anxious. Only then did he raise his head, look at the familiar faces of his fellow brothers, and speak. Eldest senior brother, second senior brother, and 5th junior brother, you all just rushed back to the sect this afternoon. The journey must have been tiring, and we didn't have time to let you rest. However, I do have an important matter to discuss with you. Don't blame old 4 and old 6. This time, I gave a strict order to keep their mouths shut. This matter is of great importance. I have to be careful. Hu Lao slowly put down the teacup and said, Sect leader Shidi has always been steady in doing things. We all admire him very much. There's nothing to blame him for. However, the matter you speak of is of great importance. I want to listen carefully. Recently, the Jianghu has been peaceful. Several large sects have been concealing their strength and biding their time. The demonic sect has also ceased all activities. It's as if they've all returned home to farm. This is an opportunity for our Misty School to increase our power. Could it be that Shidi has a good idea? Li Lao disagreed and coldly said, In the Jianghu, strength speaks. Without good martial arts, any strategy is useless. I think it's better not to use any schemes and tricks. It's better to practice more swordsmanship. Hu Lao knew that this second junior brother was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. He didn't consider other people's thoughts when he spoke. His words were not directed at him, and what he said made sense. He naturally ignored it. Lu Lao echoed and raised his axe, saying, Third brother, which bastard is looking for trouble? I'll go chop him up. Shangguan Lao and Su Lao smiled and looked at them but didn't speak. Peng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He waved his hand at Lu Lao and said, Lao, sit down. Don't be impatient. It's not as bad as you say. Then he said to Hu Lao Da and Li Lao, eldest senior brother, Second senior brother. This time it's not a matter of fighting over territory with any sect. There's no need to use any schemes. He deliberately paused and said, "This time I called all of you here because there's a good thing." The three of them couldn't help but be confused. They all frowned. Lu Lao said, "Third brother, what good thing has fallen on our heads?" Li Lao said, "Could it be that a pie has fallen from the sky?" Hu Lao didn't say anything. He thought for a moment and said, "Lao, could it be the old beggar you mentioned last time?" Openg smiled and nodded. Lu Lao laughed. His grandmother. That old beggar really didn't lie. I threw this matter to the back of my mind. It's already been a year. Who still remembers? Li Lao said with a straight face, "When did you go out? You seem to have been in the sect this year. How come I didn't know you went out?" Openg said, "I didn't go myself." Lu Lao interrupted at this time. He pointed at Shangguan Lao and Su Lao and said, "I was wondering why these two people were whispering the moment they came in. So it was you guys who went. Why didn't you say anything in advance?" Su Lao quickly said, "Fifth brother, you're mistaken. We just found out a few days ago." The three of them became more and more confused. Openg quickly explained, "Lao and Lao really didn't go. I sent a Hai and Ching. When Lu Lao heard this, he immediately jumped up. "You actually sent two disciples for such an important matter. Aren't you afraid that something will go wrong?" Hu Lao glared at him and said, "Don't be so surprised, okay? Aren't the two of them safe? Otherwise, how can we sit here and discuss things peacefully?" Su Lao thought for a moment and said, "That's true." Openg smiled and explained, "It's like this. In order to not let the spies of the other sects notice our movements and give them a chance to loot a burning house, I, the Tan family's master, and the Wan Jian Peak's sword master did go. We only sent the second-generation disciples of our sect to the place we chose in advance. Yanming Jusher, who few people in Jianghu paid attention to, took them there." Li Lao said, "This Yanming Jusher's martial arts are average. He's smart, but he's shrewd. A Hai will be at a disadvantage if he goes with Ching. Hu Lao said, "Since Lao and the others let him take them, they naturally have a way to guard against him." Openg rubbed his nose and said, "Eldest senior brother is right. Before he left, all three of us sent people close to him to his Yanming mountain villa. He also sent people to escort his wife and children to our sections. When the matter is completed, we can then escort his wife and children back and exchange our people at the same time." Hu Lao asked, "Who did you send?" Openg said, "Naturally it was Yanner." Hu Lao nodded. Openg continued, "She just returned a few days ago and is resting in the villa." Hu Lao also said, "She's the only one who's suitable for this kind of thing. It's been hard on her." Li Lao said, "She's your sister. Naturally, she should share her brother's worries. However, that Yanming Jusher actually didn't play any tricks? That's strange." Openg's eyes curved into crescents as he said, "How could he not? He proposed to use rock, paper, scissors instead of a martial arts competition to divide the treasures. In the end, he was completely defeated by our Ching. Lu Lao also laughed, "That's right. This girl never loses when it comes to guessing. She even used this to get me drunk. This Yanming Jusher really shot himself in the foot." Openg said again, "The most ridiculous thing was that he even faked an imperial edict saying that the extra treasures were up to fate. Whoever got it would get it. In the end, there weren't many treasures. He only took a few extra portions of herbs. Man proposes, God disposes. Herbs?" Lu Lao was the first to interrupt again. "You didn't get any divine weapons." Su Lao said seriously, "Of course I did. It's a pangu axe." Lu Lao immediately jumped up and rushed in front of Openg, saying, "Really? Third brother, this panga axe is the weapon of my dreams. This time, you have to give it to me. I'll use it to split this Jianghu in half." Before Openg could say anything, Hu Lao scolded him. "Lao, go back and sit down. This is a discussion hall. Don't forget the rules. Lu Lawu was quite afraid of Hu Lauda. He slunk back to his seat and said innocently, "Boss, this is my dream. You can't destroy it. I'm definitely going to have this axe." Li Lawu opened his mouth. "You really believe in something like the Pango axe? How about I exchange it with the Xian Yuan sword?" Lu Lawu muttered, "You don't have the Xian Yuan sword." Li Lawu continued, "You don't have the Pango axe either." At this time Hu Lauda opened his mouth. "Don't listen to Lu Lawu's nonsense. The Pango axe is just a legend. How can it possibly exist?" At this time O Peng said mysteriously, "Although Lawu's words are a joke, senior brother, you really made a mistake this time. There really is a legendary item inside." This time Hu Lauda was also moved, saying, "What item? Isn't it a herb?" O Peng was very satisfied that boss, who was so surprised, saying, "The herb is just a bonus. The real treasure is something else." Lu Lawu was not happy. If it's not the Pango axe, what legendary item is there? Could it be the Xian Yuan sword? The Cultivation God's Heaven's Recommendation Seal? The Elixir of Immortality? Shangguan Lawu spoke. "Lawu is really amazing. He actually guessed it correctly. I can't even dream of it." The remaining 3 people were really stunned. Hu Lauda looked at Li Lawu and gave him a look. Li Lawu stood up and used his qigong. He floated out of the meeting hall like a wisp of smoke and flew up to the roof. He quickly circled around the meeting hall. Finally, he stood on the roof of the meeting hall and listened carefully for a while. Only then did he fly down and quickly walk back to his seat. He said to Hu Lauda, "I didn't find any random people around." Hu Lauda nodded and then looked at O Peng. Lu Lawu was still in a daze, as if he didn't understand what the two were doing. Hu Lauda said to O Peng, "Lawu, tell us in detail about the treasure inside." 0. Chapter 27. O Peng then took out a small porcelain bottle from his arms and handed it to Boss Hu. Boss Hu took the small porcelain bottle and carefully looked at the words on it. Even if he was a calm person, his hands trembled. He was so frightened by the 3 words that he almost dropped the bottle. Boss Hu sat there holding the bottle and didn't speak. Seeing Boss Hu like this, Li Lawu and Lu Lawu curiously walked forward and looked at the bottle on both sides. "Life-prolonging pill." Both of them exclaimed. What was different was the second sentence. Li Lawu said, "There is such a thing." Lu Lawu said, "What is this?" Boss Hu and Li Lawer's faces were gloomy and uncertain. Their frowns became deeper and deeper. Lu Lawu looked at the expressions of the 2 puzzled. He even turned to look at O Peng, Shangguan Laosi, and Su Laolu. The 3 of them also had a serious look on their faces. After a cup of tea's time, Boss Hu let out a long breath and seemed to have made up his mind. He calmed down and straightened his back again. He returned the small porcelain bottle to O Peng. He said, "Lao-san, what are you going to do with it?" O Peng could hear the change in the way he addressed him. This Lao-san was actually a real way of addressing him as a brother, not a pompous form of address like sect leaders, junior martial brother. Instead, he was talking to O Peng as an older brother. O Peng also hurriedly said respectfully, "Big brother, didn't I call all the brothers over so that we can discuss it together?" Boss Hu shook his head and said, "Lao-san, this kind of thing, you shouldn't show it to the brothers. You should keep it yourself." O Peng said with a wry smile, "Big brother, it's not that I didn't think about it. However, this thing was obtained from the secret plane. It's a box with 4 copies. I don't know if other people's boxes have this thing. Moreover, when I opened it here, I was careless. Lao-san, Lu Lao-san, Ahai, and Chinga were all there. I can't keep it a secret." Boss Hu said, "Well, since that's the case, you should keep it first. This kind of thing is not something that people like us can bear. You must not take it privately. When the storm arises in the future, take it out again. Hopefully, you can get rid of this burden." The rest of the people were thinking about it. Only Old Fifth Lu was depressed. He pulled Old Sixth Su and asked, "Sixth brother, what is this longevity pill?" Su Laolu said unhappily, "Fifth brother, Didn't you just say that there is a legendary elixir of immortality? This is it. It can extend a person's life by 10 years. Ah, old Fifth, Lou cried out. There's actually such a thing? Then why aren't you bringing it over? One for each of us. How long will it take? Lilawis said sarcastically, 10 more years? Once you take it and people find out, they will immediately come knocking on your door. You won't even be able to live another day. Old Fifth Lou struggled and said, I'll run after eating. Let's see where they can find me. Li Lauer sneered. Everyone in the Jianghu is looking for you. Where are you going? What about Misty School? What about your family? When Old Fifth Lou heard this, he did not know how to answer. He blinked his eyes, smacked his lips, raised his eyebrows, and said almost shamelessly, Don't I still have you guys in front of me? What am I afraid of? Li Lauer also curled his lips and ignored him. Hu Laoda glared at Old Fifth Lou and said, Old Fifth, you're not young anymore. Can't you use your brain when you're in trouble? Who knows if this thing is real or fake? Even if it's real, who will the 6 of us give it to? Didn't your second brother just say that even if we take it, we will be hunted down by the entire Jianghu? Who can stand it? Why don't we just put it aside and wait for things to change? If someone we can't afford to offend comes knocking, we'll tell the Jianghu and give them this hot potato. If there's no movement, then it won't be too late for us brothers to make plans. Old Fifth Lou picked up the wine pot and took a big gulp. He said, I only have my mouth. I don't know anything else. Just give me a bite when the time comes. Openg turned his head and asked the other brothers, Brothers, what do you think of Big Brother's idea? Shangguan Laosi stroked his beard and said, Big Brother's idea is very much to my liking. I've been thinking about this for the past few days. Instead of hoping for an unreliable life of 10 years, it's better to live the life we have now. Don't ruin the great foundation of our Misty School. Also, if there's any trouble when the time comes, third brother, you must deal with it well. If you don't handle it well, it might backfire. Li Laowa nodded and did not say anything. Su Laolu said with a smile, I'll listen to Big Brother and fourth brother. Old Fifth Lou ignored Openg's gaze and continued drinking. Openg's gaze also swept past him and directly ignored him. Openg saw that no one had any objections and said, Then I'll take care of this thing. We'll see how the situation develops in the future. Old Fifth Lou saw that Openg ignored him and muttered in a low voice, I'm ignoring you. You should ask for my opinion. Hu Boss looked at him muttering and asked, Old Fifth, do you have something to say? Old Fifth Lou quickly stood up and said, No, I just want to ask. Did you find these things in the secret plane that look edible but can't move your mouth? Hu Boss kept a straight face and no longer paid attention to him. He turned his head and looked at Openg. This time, Openg was smiling like a flower. He took out 2 small porcelain bottles from his bosom and handed them to Hu Boss. Hu Boss took the porcelain bottles and carefully looked at them. Suddenly, he was surprised again. Qi-generating pill? There really is such a treasure. It hasn't appeared in Jianghu for many years. Next to him, Old Fifth Li couldn't sit still this time. He put away that deadpan face and came over. Only Shangguan Laosi, Su Laolu, and Lu Lao didn't move. The first 2 already knew, but the last one heartlessly asked again, Qi-generating pill? What's this thing? Coincidentally, Hu Boss words also came out at this time. Bone, strengthening pill? What's this thing? Openg arched his eyebrows and said with a grin, This Qi-generating pill. Everyone knows that it's a legendary panacea for increasing one's power. Those who take it can increase their power by 20 years. However, this is only for those who cultivate internal martial arts. In other words, all the brothers here except for Old Fifth and Old Sixth. So long as they take this Qi-generating pill, their internal strength will double, saving 20 years of bitter cultivation. However, according to my investigation of the gang's ancient records, it seems that there are some flaws, but it's not clearly stated. Listening to this, Su Lalio's face became somewhat unnatural. He originally thought that he could get a share of the soup, but after listening to Openg, This chi-generating pill instead had no fate with him. He still asked, "Third brother, is it true that we can't take external martial arts?" Lu Laowu was also depressed. His grandmother, "Why is my life so bad?" O Peng was still smiling as he said, "I've carefully looked into it. Sixth brother, external martial arts really aren't effective." Su Laolu slumped in his chair, speechless. Shangguan Laosi followed up. "Third brother, how many chi-generating pills are there in this bottle?" "We have 4 people." "Ah, it might not be enough. What should we do?" Openg forced a smile and said, "I also didn't dare to open it. I only dared to open it when all the brothers were here." Hu Laoda's eyes flickered, and he also nodded without saying anything. Openg looked at the somewhat dispirited Lu Laowu and Su Laolu, and then said, "This bone-strengthening pill isn't recorded in our Misty School's ancient records. I informed the disciples under the gang to have the spies placed in each sect pay more attention. As a matter of fact, yesterday news came from the Dalan Temple, saying that there's a little record in the ancient records of the Dalan Temple." Openg drank a mouthful of green tea. Ignoring Lu Laowu's resentful gaze, he still leisurely said, "According to the ancient records of the Dalan Temple, this bone-strengthening pill is the exact opposite of the chi-generating pill. It's specially prepared for those who cultivate external martial arts. It's useless for those who cultivate internal martial arts. For those who cultivate external martial arts like Laowu and Laolu, after taking it, it will promote the strength of their bones, skin, and muscles. It will also increase the precision of their external martial arts." However, Hu Laoda's figure flashed and dodged. He angrily said, "What are you doing, Laowu? Why are you so careless?" Seeing this, Lu Laowu embarrassedly smiled and said, "I'm in a hurry. I want to see what this thing looks like." Hu Laoda scolded, "Sit there obediently. In a moment, I'll naturally give it to you." Lu Laowu obediently sat back down. Su Lalio's expression was also abnormally excited. Anyone who had experienced such a great change in mood would be so excited that they wouldn't be able to sit still. He also covetously looked at the small porcelain bottle. Hu Laoda took the 2 small porcelain bottles and didn't return them to Openg. Instead, he sat down on a chair. He looked at Openg with a smile and said with a very gratified tone, "Laosan, you're good, really good. Laoer, it's not wrong that we didn't fight with Laosan for the position of headmaster back then. To be able to obtain so many good things without anyone noticing. Your contribution is comparable to the founder of the headmaster school. The 2 of us can't do it. With these 2 things, our Misty School's strength has increased by more than 1 level." Hu Laoda looked at the 2 porcelain bottles in amusement and continued, "Even if there's only 1 pill in here, we can have 2 more peerless experts. Although there's still a gap between us and the top schools like the Dalan Temple, in the middle schools, we can definitely be ranked at the top." Openg looked at Hu Laoda's excited expression and also said, "Big brother, you're overpraising me. This little brother really can accept it. It's just that my luck is good, it's just a fluke." Hu Laoda said, "Luck is also a part of strength. Third brother, you don't have to be modest." Then he continued, "It's just that I don't know how many pills are in this porcelain bottle. It's not easy for the 6 of us to distribute them." Openg said, "Big brother, I took this thing out today so that you can decide how to distribute it. Although I'm the headmaster, and I also hope to become a peerless expert, the rise and success of a headmaster school is the result of the efforts of all the brothers. However, relying on one headmaster, you can't do too much. Therefore, I hope that no matter how many pills are in the porcelain bottle, we brothers can't harm each other because of this." 0. Chapter 28. After saying this, Openg once again took out a slightly larger porcelain bottle from his bosom. This time, Shangguan Laosi and Su Laolu were also stunned. They remembered that at that time there were only 3 small porcelain bottles in the brocade box. What was this? Lu Laowu even laughed. "Third brother, what are you doing? Don't tell me you're doing a magic trick, taking them out one by one?" This time, Openg didn't hand over the porcelain bottle to Hu Laoda. Instead, He placed it on the square table next to him. Looking at everyone's astonished eyes, he said, "Last time, the things that were taken out from the secret plane, in addition to the chi-generating pill, bone-strengthening pill, and life-prolonging pill, were a batch of very old medicinal herbs. This thing is called chi-generating pill. It is a type of pill that is similar to the chi-generating pill recorded in our Misty School's ancient records. It was created after the chi-generating pill's pill formula was lost. This batch of medicinal herbs was given to Hall Master by the pharmacist Hall. He concocted it according to the chi-generating pill's pill formula. According to the ancient records, this pill's function is limited. As for how much it can improve one's skill, it still depends on the person's aptitude and other factors. This bottle is the first batch to be refined. There are a total of 9 pills. It was only refined this afternoon. The medicinal herbs from last time should still be able to refine a few batches." Hu Lao Da was very happy to hear this. He clapped and said with a smile, "Good! With this pill, even if some of U.S. brothers didn't take the chi-generating pill, we can still take this chi-generating pill. It's not too regrettable. Moreover, this pill is great in quantity, enough for the second generation of young disciples to use. We can also create a few experts." Oh Peng then said apologetically, "However, we don't have a substitute for the bone-strengthening pill, so we can't give it to disciples who practice external martial arts. It's very regrettable. If there was only one bone-strengthening pill, there would be no way for either of the 2 shitty brothers." Hu Lao Da interrupted O Peng's words and said, "Is there anything in this world that is perfect? To have such an opportunity is enough. Whether or not it can increase one's skill depends on fate. Moreover, the skill obtained from external forces is not as good as one's own hard work. Shitty brothers shouldn't be possessed because of this, right?" The rest of the people felt a chill in their hearts, and their minds immediately calmed down. Their minds that had been muddled by the miraculous pill also calmed down. Everyone thought in their hearts, "What eldest senior brother said makes sense. The path of martial arts is based on real cultivation. If one blindly pursues the growth of one's power without matching it with the cultivation of one's mental state, it is extremely easy to go mad. This is not uncommon in Jianghu. Although increasing one's power is important, one's life is also important." Openg said, "Eldest senior brother's words are too serious. Today's event is a good thing. We all understand each other's temperament and breadth of mind. We definitely won't turn this good thing into a bad thing." Shangguan, 4th brother, also expressed his stance. "Big brother, today's happy occasion is the first time in our lives that we have encountered such a joyous occasion. Although we were momentarily muddle-headed, we will not harm the harmony between us brothers, nor will we disregard the interests of our sect. Please rest assured, if there is only one pill of this chi-generating pill, I suggest that 3rd junior brother take it. First, his ethereal divine art has already reached great success. If he has the help of this pill, he will certainly be able to complete it. Second, he is our sect leader. The level of his martial arts will directly determine the prosperity of our sect. Third, this pill was originally obtained by 3rd junior brother. If he refuses to accept it, how can we have the face to take it?" Everyone agreed, and Hu Lao handed the small porcelain bottle back to Openg. Openg was also not pretentious. He did not push it back and forth, and reached out to receive it. Openg held the small porcelain bottle in one hand, and once again looked around at everyone. His other hand pinched the bottle's head, and with a kacha sound the bottle's mouth opened, and a sweet fragrance diffused out. Openg poured the contents of the small porcelain bottle into a jade box that he had already prepared. Unexpectedly, there were 3 pills. Openg was very happy and found 3 jade boxes to store them. He placed them on the table and pushed them in front of Hu Lao. He said, "I originally thought there was only 1 pill, but now there are 2 more. Eldest senior brother, please distribute them." Hu Lao smiled bitterly. Looking at the 3 jade boxes in front of him, he shook his head and said, Lao-san, you gave me a difficult problem. 1 pill is enough. But how do we divide these 3? Forget it. Let's do as we said just now. Lao-san, you take 1. Peng took one of the jade boxes and put it in his bosom. Hu Laoda looked at Li Lao-er and Shangguan Lao-si and said, Lao-er, Lao-si, you guys also take 1 each. Li Lao-er did not get up and said, Big brother, what about you? You don't want it? Hu Laoda laughed and said, An old man is bound to make mistakes. I have been your big brother for so many years and should also set a good example for you. I am old, so I don't want it. I have watched you all grow up. What you do is what I do. Shangguan Lao-si also said, Big brother, how about this? I will give you mine. Isn't it just 20 years of cultivation? I have time to practice. Li Lao-er also said, That's right, big brother. You are already old, and you may not be able to reach great heights by relying on your own cultivation. Lao-si and I have plenty of time. I think you should take one of these pills first. Peng also wanted to take out his own qi-generating pill, but he knew that he needed this pill, and his need was also the need of the gang. He could not give up the gang's benefits because of his brotherhood, so he did not open his mouth. Hu Laoda looked at his group of brothers with gratification. They were such good brothers. Although they were not biological brothers, ever since Master brought them to the Misty School, they had grown up together. As the oldest, he had led them to live and practice martial arts when they were young. When they grew up, they wandered the Jianghu together, using their sweat and blood to cast the name Misty 6 Tigers. Although they were now old, each had their own achievements, and each had their own family. But in the face of such a great temptation, they still thought of him, so his painstaking efforts were not in vain. Hu Laoda laughed and said, Don't say any more. I have already made up my mind. If you guys take it, the effect will be greater than if I take it. It is better that you guys take it. The assembly hall suddenly quieted down. After a moment, Li Lao-er opened his mouth and said, Big brother, I have an idea. Do you think it is feasible? Hu Laoda nodded and said, Let's hear it. Li Lao-er said, Big brother knows that I major in our Misty School's Misty 7 Swords. The requirements for internal strength are not too high. My achievements in the field of swordsmanship today, based on my aptitude, have already reached a certain bottleneck. If I break through again, it will only be a matter of a little bit of internal strength. But the peak of swordsmanship cannot be reached by relying on internal strength alone. After breaking through this bottleneck, I still have to comprehend swordsmanship. Therefore, this qi-generating pill is not a very urgent need. I want to give it to Big Brother. What do you think? Hu Laoda pondered. Peng then said, Big Brother, I just don't know if this qi-generating pill can be taken separately. The ancient records of the sect don't explain it. Hu Laoda opened the jade box containing the qi-generating pill, and a fragrant scent greeted his nostrils. He used his hand to pinch it and felt that it was very hard. Soon after, he closed the lid. Upon seeing this, Li Lao-er said, Big brother, it's better that we don't take risks. I'll take the qi-generating pill. If the qi-generating pill can't be taken separately, I'll cut it in half and ruin the medicinal properties. Then wouldn't the 2 of us not be able to reap any benefits? Hu Laoda said, Lao-er, is what you said a moment ago true? We don't practice swordsmanship. You can't deceive your big brother. Li Lao-er said, That's only natural. Hu Laoda took out a small and exquisite dagger from his bosom. Then he opened the jade box and proudly said, How can our brotherly affection be compared to a trifling 20 years of cultivation? Lao-er, since you're willing to give this enormous benefit to Big Brother, how can Big Brother let go of the opportunity to share it with Second Brother? Even if the medicinal properties are ruined, you and I brothers will be drawing water with a bamboo basket for nothing. What do I have to be afraid of using this qi-generating pill as a wager for our brotherly affection? When Li Lao-er heard this, his eyes also radiated a radiant light. Presumably it wasn't because he was stimulated and his internal strength suddenly surged, but because the tears in his eyes reflected the candlelight. With an impassioned expression, he walked forward and said, "Big brother." The rest of the people all stood up and walked forward. Hu Lao patted Li Lao Er's shoulder and handed over the dagger, saying, "Lao Er, your swordsmanship is exquisite. It's up to you." Li Lao Er took the dagger. The handle was still warm. Looking at Hu Lao Da's encouraging expression, he smiled and nodded. Then he slightly circulated his internal energy and raised his hand to chop at the jade box. In everyone's eyes, they only saw an arc as the dagger fell on the chi-generating pill. Following the arc, the chi-generating pill was split into two, but the jade box wasn't damaged in the slightest. By the time Li Lao Er withdrew the dagger, everyone hadn't yet praised Li Lao Er's exquisite swordsmanship when Openg hurriedly found another jade box and separated the two halves of the chi-generating pill. Immediately, Hu Lao took the jade box and put it into his bosom. He also gave the other box to Li Lao Er. Of course, the remaining one was given to Shangguan Lao Si. After the chi-generating pill was distributed, Lu Laowu and Su Lao Lu stared the bone-strengthening pill in Hu Lao Da's hand. Because there were 3 chi-generating pills, the two of them weren't worried about the number of bone-strengthening pills. However, Hu Lao still asked the two of them what they should do if there was only one pill. Lu Lao Wu said, "Of course we'll give it to Lao Lu. He's the youngest. Weren't all the good things left for him before?" Su Lao Lu said, "It was like this before, but now it's no longer possible. I've taken advantage of him for half my life. This time I must give it to fifth brother." The two of them talked back and forth. In short, they didn't want to take it themselves. In the end, Lu Lao Wu became anxious and said, "Big brother, quickly open it. Aren't there 3 chi-generating pills? Maybe there are also 3 pills. Why are we dawdling like this? If there's only one pill, we'll split it equally." Thus, Hu Lao didn't say anything more. He raised his hand and crushed the porcelain bottle, pouring the bone-strengthening pill into the jade box. Sure enough, there were 3 pills inside. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. Hu Lao put the bone-strengthening pills into 3 jade boxes and handed one to Lu Lao Wu and Su Lao Lu. The two of them received it and put it into their bosom. Hu Lao handed the last jade box to Openg and said, "Third Shitty, I'll give this last one to you. You decide who to give it to." Openg nodded and took the jade box. However, he didn't put it into his bosom. Instead, he placed it on the table. 0. Chapter 29. Openg looked at the bone-strengthening pill on the table and said, "This medicine is only effective for those who practice external martial arts. I want to give it to the stone cow in the gang. What do you think?" After Openg finished speaking, his eyes looked at Old Fifth Lu and Old Sixth Su, because only their disciples practiced external martial arts. Old Fifth Lu said straightforwardly, "Okay, I have no objection. That stone cow kid's strength is not ordinary. He's stronger than me. If he takes it, it will definitely add a super general to our Misty sect." Old Sixth Su thought for a moment and said, "I also have no objection. My disciple's aptitude is limited. It's better to help Stone Cow. However, Stone Cow's head is too straight. You have to control him well." Openg nodded and said, "I have confidence in this." Old Hu looked at the porcelain bottle containing the chi-boosting pills and said, "Third Martial Brother, please deal with these chi-boosting pills at your discretion. If my disciples have good aptitude and can be trained, then use it. If they can't, then don't give it to them." Openg smiled and said, "For example, Martial Brothers, this time the medicinal herbs collected from the secret plane are limited. I will distribute it according to each disciple's situation." I heard Ai and Qing, or say that there are still many medicinal herbs in the secret plane. Moreover, we have control of the secret plane. In the future, there will be an endless supply of these medicinal herbs, and there will also be a lot of chi-boosting pills. Old Hu also smiled and said, "That's good. We can't spoil the harmony in the gang for the distribution of these pills. Moreover, Ahai and Ching, who went to the secret plane, must be heavily rewarded. Peng said, and I have the same idea as Senior Marshal Brother. After a while, I will give each of them a chi-boosting pill. Old Hu said, this is not urgent. The chi-boosting pill and bone-strengthening pill have already been obtained. I'm afraid that the medicinal properties will be lost. I think we should first take this pill. Peng said, what Big Brother said is true. The ancient records in the sect say that the absorption of this pill will take a day and a night. I think we should enter the secret room and absorb the pill. How about it? Big Boss Hu said, all right, you explain the sect's affairs and call Shernyo over. We'll cultivate in isolation together. Peng called his first disciple, Zhang Chengyue, over and gave him some instructions. Zhang Chengyue accepted the order and left. Not long after, the sleepy-eyed stone cow entered the conference hall, as if he didn't realize that he had been given a free lunch. Behind the meeting hall, there was a well-hidden small door. Behind the small door was a long tunnel. There were countless torches on the walls of the tunnel. At a glance, it felt like there was no end to the tunnel. Peng led the group through the small door and walked along the tunnel. After walking for about the time it took to brew a cup of tea, they finally reached the end. At the end of the tunnel was a huge hall with chairs and tables. There were also several different small doors leading to the depths of the tunnel. When he raised his head to take a look, it was extremely spacious above him. It was 4 to 5 feet high, and he could see the veined patterns on the rocks. This place was actually the belly of the mountain. Peng handed the jade box, containing the bone, strengthening pill, to Shernyo. He pointed to one of the small doors and said, go in, find a small room, and take the pill inside. Then, according to your usual cultivation method, practice 9 times 981 times. Shernyo took the jade box and didn't say anything. He turned his head and left. The others walked towards another small door, and each found a small room to cultivate in seclusion. Peng found a private room and sat down cross-legged. He first operated the ethereal divine art and adjusted his state of mind. Then he took out the jade box from his bosom and took out the chi-generating pill. It was a fragrant smell. The jet-black pill was hard to the touch. It was completely different from the chi-boosting pill refined by the pharmacy. Peng calmed his mood and put the chi-generating pill into his mouth. He only felt the pill turn into a liquid on his tongue. It flowed down his throat and into his body. Then it immediately turned into a warm current that rushed into his dantian. At this time, Peng didn't dare to think too much. He withdrew his mind and operated the ethereal divine art with all his strength to refine this warm current. The private room immediately became silent. After an unknown amount of time, Peng stopped and carefully examined his body. He couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. This chi-generating pill really lived up to its reputation. His power was more than twice as profound. The chi in his body flowed along his meridians. It felt as if there were no obstructions and didn't leave behind any hidden dangers. Peng carefully calculated in his mind. He really did cultivate 81 times, no more and no less. He secretly said in his heart, this is a divine pill. Peng sat quietly for a moment. Then he got up and pushed open the door. He went to the hall. At this time, Hu Laoda, Li Lao Er, and Shangguan Lao Si were already waiting in the hall. Peng stepped forward and asked Hu Laoda with concern, Big Brother, how is it? Hu Laoda beamed and said, it really is the legendary divine medicine. It saved me 10 years of effort. Peng heard this and hurriedly congratulated him. Then Peng asked Li Lao Er. Li Lao Er didn't answer. He casually took out his long sword and waved it. Peng saw the long sword spit out an inch-long sword light. Peng was overjoyed and congratulated him again. Shangguan Lao Si didn't wait for Peng to ask and said, Third brother, my power has nearly doubled this time. It really is a divine medicine. What about you? Hu Laoda and Li Lao Er also looked at Openg with concern. Openg also smiled and said, I was lucky. The ethereal divine art has more than doubled and is approaching the realm of great success. Shangguan Lao Si repeatedly said in admiration. After a long time, Lu Lao Wu, Su Lao Lu, and the stone cow still didn't move. Shangguan Lao Si couldn't help but be somewhat worried. Openg said, You probably don't need to worry. External cultivation is different from internal cultivation. You only need to revolve your internal strength. Presumably, external cultivation has to change your bones and muscles. Let's wait for a moment. Everyone waited in the hall for the time it took to eat 2 meals. Suddenly, they heard a burst of laughter from the stone house next door. Lu Lao Wu pushed open the door and came out. His thick and heavy body seemed to have slimmed down a bit. The 2 axes in his hands seemed to be very light. He walked in front of everyone. His steps were light and not as clumsy as before. There was no need to ask to know that his martial arts had improved by leaps and bounds. Immediately, the door of another stone house opened. Su Lao Lu also came out. His body shape didn't change much. When he came closer, everyone saw that his temples were slightly protruding. His 2 big hands had also become white like jade. It seemed that his external strength had a tendency to spread from the outside to the inside. When the 6 ethereal tigers brothers met, their martial arts had greatly improved. Naturally, they congratulated each other and congratulated each other. Only the stone cow in the last stone house still hadn't come out. Everyone couldn't help but feel strange. Openg walked lightly to the front of the stone house where the stone cow was in seclusion. He listened carefully. He heard the sound of the wind in the house, accompanied by the sound of the stone cow's breathing. He was still practicing. Openg looked back at Lu Lao Wu and thought, Lao Wu and Lao Lu have both come out. Could it be that this stone cow's martial arts are deeper than theirs? Why hasn't he come out yet? After a long while, Openg listened again. The situation was still the same. Openg was puzzled. Could it be that our Misty School was going to produce a peerless master? After the time it took to eat a meal, Openg couldn't bear it anymore. He gently pushed open the door and looked inside. He saw a huge figure practicing the mighty King Kong hands. The moves were powerful, and the wind was fierce. The wind from the palms struck in front of Openg's eyes. Openg heard the stone cow dance for a long time before he shouted 78. Then he started from the first move of the mighty King Kong hands again. At this time, the stone cow's eyes happened to see Openg. He didn't stop punching and shouting, Leader, wait a moment. I've just practiced 78 times. I'm not far from 81. His voice was clear and his breathing was steady. It didn't affect his punches and kicks. His martial arts were exquisite. Without 30 to 50 years of hard work, it wouldn't be like this. Openg couldn't help but be shocked. Was this how to take the bone strengthening pill? He didn't know how Lao Wu and Lao Lu practiced. He wanted to ask them, but after thinking about it, he decided not to. It was all in the past. Even if the method of taking the pill was wrong, it wouldn't change anything. It would only add to his worries. So Openg returned to the group and chatted with them, waiting for the stone cow to finish practicing 81 times. Everyone just stood there. Their legs were a bit sore. Fortunately, they had just had a fortuitous encounter, so they didn't care. Just as they were complaining in their hearts, the stone door finally opened. They saw the stone cow walk out. His body was 3 times larger than before. His skin was faintly glowing. His aura was also soaring. He walked in front of everyone, giving them the feeling that he was a giant spiritual god. When the stone cow saw Openg, he shouted, Leader, what did you give me? Why is it so fragrant? It's better than eating 10 bowls of rice. Normally, after practicing the mighty King Kong hands 3 times, I would be sweating profusely and gasping for breath. After eating this little pill, I practiced 81 times and didn't feel tired. I still feel strong, so it's okay to practice a bit more. Everyone secretly laughed. Openg asked, Stone Cow, how do you feel compared to before? The stone cow scratched his head and said, "I don't know. I feel stronger now. Before I could kill a cow, now I can kill a bear." Lao Wu stepped forward and said, "Stone cow, come, hit me with all your strength." When the stone cow heard this, he didn't hold back. He took a deep breath and waved his hand. Lao Wu also raised his fist to meet the attack. He originally used 80% of his strength, but before the fist even came close, the wind from the fist was already blowing. It was biting cold. Not only was he shocked, he felt that he had used all his strength. The two large fists collided with a pung sound. The stone cow took a step back, leaving a deep footprint on the stone floor. Lao Wu took 5 steps back, each step leaving a footprint on the stone floor. Lao Wu held his slightly painful fist and walked in front of the stone cow and said, "You little brat, you've improved a lot. I'm afraid I'm not your opponent." When the stone cow heard this, he grinned foolishly. Su Lao Wu said from the side, "Fifth brother Mo Ziqian, the stone cow is a martial artist. You use a weapon. I'm afraid he's not your opponent." Lao Wu patted the stone cow's sculpted muscles and said, "Of course I know this. Come, stone cow, let's go drink." Then he pulled the stone cow and walked towards the corridor. 0. Chapter 30. Peng looked at the backs of the two people and could not help but shake his head, saying, "These two living treasures are really hard to deal with." Old Hu laughed and said, "Let them be." After saying that, everyone followed the two out of the hall. When they stepped into the meeting hall again, it was still the time when the lamps were lit. Peng and the others were surprised. The records in the ancient books were indeed correct, 1 day and 1 night. However, this time was different from the past. In just 1 day's effort, the difference in their martial arts was like heaven and earth. The word opportunity was unfathomable. When everyone was seated, Zhang Qingyue went forward to salute and briefly reported the situation in the sect during this period to Peng. Peng listened and nodded with satisfaction. Then, Zhang Qingyue stood at the side. Peng did not ask much. He just told everyone that in the next 10 days he would be in seclusion to practice martial arts. The affairs of the sect would be temporarily handed over to Zhang Qingyue to handle. Then he let everyone disperse. When everyone else in the sect had left, the 5 Misty Tigers began to discuss matters again. Peng said to his senior and junior brothers, "Brothers, we have finished taking the elixirs in this secret site. After we go back today, it is best to go into seclusion and rest for 10 days. After 10 days, we will discuss the development plan of the Misty Tigers together. What do you think?" Everyone had no objections. They got up and left the meeting hall. They went home and did not mention it. At night, the Misty School was no different from usual. However, after dinner, a maidservant walked out of one of the inner residences. She walked out of the misty heights unhurriedly and went to a grocery store outside the manor. She bought some rouge and face powder and then came back. After a meal, the owner of the grocery store set off from the back door of the store. He drove a horse carriage to Pingyang City to stock up. Not long after, he arrived at a large grocery store in Pingyang City. After he bought some groceries, he hurried back to the Misty Heights. After a while, the accountant of the grocery store in Pingyang City finished settling the accounts and went home. When he passed by a dark alley, he felt the urge to go to the toilet and went in. However, after he went in, he did not urinate. Instead, he hurried to a dark corner. There was a small door there. He knocked on it rhythmically, and the door opened with a creak. The person inside looked out to see who it was and led him into the courtyard. Not long after, the accountant came out from the courtyard and went to the alley to relieve himself. He walked out lazily and then went home. Just as he walked out of the alley, 2 carrier pigeons flew out from a small house in the courtyard. They flew out of Pingyang City, one after another. Although Pingyang City was noisy at night, it was the same as the Misty Heights at night. It was as if nothing had changed because of the carrier pigeons. Everything was so normal. However, who knew what unusual things were hidden in this seemingly peaceful night? Dawn came quickly. The sunlight pierced through the night like a sharp sword. Everyone started to get up and start their busy day. Zhang Xiaohua also opened his eyes. Similarly, there was a flash in his eyes and no one noticed it. The first sound Zhang Xiaohua heard when he woke up was his grandmother's cough. Zhang Xiaohua did not need to think to know that this was already the 8th day in a row. Moreover, Zhang Xiaohua could faintly feel that his grandmother's cough was not a simple one. He could feel the viscous liquid in his grandmother's throat and body. It was the kind of liquid that blocked her breath and life. His grandmother's life seemed to be gradually dissolving and passing away in this viscous liquid. Zhang Xiaohua could even feel his grandmother's thinness. This thinness was not the thinness of her body, but the thinness of her spirit. Zhang Xiaohua was very scared. He did not dare to tell his mother that other than his grandmother's cough, there was nothing wrong with her body. She ate a lot of food every day. The village vet, Old Chin, also said that it was just the cold weather and her body was cold. His grandmother was old and could not adapt to it. She would be fine when spring came. However, Zhang Xiaohua did not dare to believe it. His grandmother coughed violently again. Her back was bent and she was in great pain. Zhang Xiaohua hurriedly got up and massaged his grandmother's back. He then poured some water from the teapot on the table, tested the temperature of the water, and brought it to his grandmother's mouth. His grandmother drank the water and then heaved a sigh of relief. She said kindly, "Xiaohua, why are you awake so early? Why don't you sleep a little longer? Did I wake you up?" Zhang Xiaohua said, "No, Grandma. I don't know what's going on. Recently, I've been waking up at dawn and can't sleep anymore." His grandmother said, "Ai, Xiaohua has grown up and is sensible. I don't want to wake you up. Last night, I endured it for a long time. At dawn, I really couldn't stand it anymore and started coughing. Tomorrow, I will go to the courtyard. I won't wake you up." Zhang Xiaohua said, "Grandma, it's true. I'm not lying. I've been sleeping very well at night recently. I didn't hear you cough at all. When I woke up in the morning, I really couldn't sleep. You must not go to the courtyard. It's too cold outside." His grandmother smiled and did not say anything. Zhang Xiaohua got up and went out of the room. The sky outside was filled with the rising sun. It did not look dazzling and was as cute as a duck's egg yolk. Zhang Xiaohua mischievously opened his mouth and took a bite of the rising sun. Unexpectedly, he really felt something warm flowing down his throat and into his body. Zhang Xiaohua could not help but be shocked. He was extremely suspicious of his own feelings. He shook his head and went to wash his face. The courtyard was as usual. His mother and Lu Qian had woken up early. His mother was busy feeding the poultry at home, while Lu Qian was busy preparing breakfast for the family. Zhang Xiaohua looked at these happily. It seemed that Lu Qian was not Sister Lu, but sister-in-law. He had already made a small decision in his heart. He might not be able to tell his mother about his doubts, but he could tell his future sister-in-law. She had read so many books and knew so many things. Perhaps she could solve his doubts. The farmer's breakfast was very simple and it was finished in a hurry. However, the difference was that after breakfast, Zhang Xiaohua would go to the well on the slope to fetch water back. Since the last time they drank tea and had insomnia, everyone seemed to be infatuated with this thing. They drank it every day. Moreover, they felt that the well water was sweeter than the river water they usually ate. Therefore, they also used the well water for their meals. However, Zhang Kai planned to let Zhang Xiaohua fetch the water twice a day in the morning and in the evening. He also told his son not to tell anyone else in the village. Zhang Xiaohua finished breakfast and went to fetch water. Before going out, he said to Lu Qian, "Sister Lu, do you want to go to the mountains with me today?" Gua Sufei heard and said happily, "Yes, Lu Qian, you should go out for a walk. These few days have been tiring for you." The other people in the Zhang family also agreed. Lu Qian thought for a moment and put down the bowl and chopsticks that she was cleaning and said, "Then I'll have to trouble Auntie to clean up. I'll go out for a walk." Then Lu Qian followed behind Zhang Xiaohua and went to the river. Zhang Xiaohua walked to the river and did not go forward. Lu Qian caught up and asked him, Xiaohua, do you have something to tell me? Zhang Xiaohua forced a smile and said, Sister Lu, you're so smart. You guessed that I have something to tell you. Lu Qian said, You little brat, if you have something to say, Sister will help you. Zhang Xiaohua was silent for a moment. He looked at the flowing river and said, Sister Lu, do you think that people in this world can never die? Lu Qian frowned and said, I can't answer you. Some books say that there is no immortal in the world. The grave is the end of everyone. But some books say that ordinary people will die, and some people will not die. Zhang Xiaohua asked curiously, Who are those people? Lu Qian said, According to some unofficial records, some cultivators do not eat the smoke and fire of the mortal world and can live forever. However, this is only written in the books, and no one has seen it. Who knows if it is true or false? On the contrary, death can be seen everywhere without exception. Zhang Xiaohua asked again, Then how can a dying person be saved? Lu Qian frowned and said, If he is dying of illness, of course he has to find a good doctor to cure the illness. If he is poisoned to death, the most important thing is to detoxify the poison so that he won't die. If he is old and about to die, then, right, you can give him the life-prolonging pill. When I was young, I read a very old book. It said that there is a strange medicine in the world called the life-prolonging pill. However, this is most likely fake. I have never heard of anyone taking this pill. When Zhang Xiaohua heard this, he looked at the flowing river and muttered, Where can I find the life-prolonging pill? When Lu Qian heard this, she was very strange and said, Xiaohua, why are you suddenly asking so many strange questions today? You still want to find the life-prolonging pill. Zhang Xiaohua raised his head. His mouth was flat as if he was about to cry. His voice was a little hoarse as he said, Sister Lu, I feel that Grandma is about to leave me. She is about to die. Lu Qian's heart skipped a beat. She quickly walked forward and hugged Xiaohua's head and said, Xiaohua, good child, don't cry and don't think so much. Grandma is just coughing. This is a very common problem for the elderly in winter. Didn't the doctor say that? When spring comes and the weather warms up, Grandma will be better. Zhang Xiaohua's tears were about to flow out. He said, But old Qin is a veterinarian. He doesn't know how to treat people. Lu Qian quickly comforted Zhang Xiaohua and said, Then in a few days, let's take Grandma to town to find a famous doctor, okay? Grandma will be fine. Zhang Xiaohua shook his head and continued to cry. As he cried, he said, Sister Lu, don't lie to me. I'm not young anymore. I can even farm by myself. I know that Grandma won't be able to get better. I can feel that there is something sticky in Grandma's body that makes her unable to breathe properly. That's why she coughs. Moreover, I can also feel that there is something in Grandma's body that is running out every day. Grandma is getting thinner and thinner. When Lu Qian heard this, she was also sad. She could no longer calm down and comfort Zhang Xiaohua. He was really a sensible child. Only a strong family relationship and a love that originated from blood could feel the passing of life. Lu Qian hugged Zhang Xiaohua's head and tears couldn't help but flow down. 0. Chapter 31. After a long while, Lu Qian finally stopped crying. She pointed to the stream and said to Zhang Xiaohua, Xiaohua, look at this river. From its source, it is just a thin stream of water. As it flows along the riverbed, more water will gather, and it will grow bigger and bigger. Slowly, it will become a big river, and finally into the sea. Just like humans, this is also the process of its growth. The sea is its end. If the river stops flowing, what will it become? Ponds, drains, and rivers will lose their meaning of life if they stop flowing. They will die. It is the same for humans. They have to go through the process of birth, growth, and death. This is a complete life. We don't know about those who can live forever, but for ordinary people like us, birth, old age, illness, and death are necessary in life. There are some notes in the Song of Life. Zhang Xiaohua asked curiously, Why can't we live forever? Lu Qian said, because we don't know how to live forever." She then continued, "Take your grandmother, for example. She's already in her 80s and has experienced so many ups and downs. She started from babbling and grew up on her own. Then she met your grandfather and formed a family. Then she had your mother and endured hardships to raise your mother into an adult. Then she saw your mother and your father get married and live together. She even saw her partner who had lived with her for her entire life pass away. Now she's seen you grandchildren being born and growing up. Her life is already very complete, and she doesn't have too many regrets. You should be happy for your grandmother's complete life. How many people can have a life of more than 80 years? Zhang Xiaohua looked up and asked, "Then what should I do?" Lu Qian patted Xiaohua's head and said, "What you need to do now is to tidy up your mood and accompany your grandmother well. Let your grandmother see her beloved grandchildren from time to time in her last days. Don't leave any unhappiness and leave in peace." The gloom in Zhang Xiaohua's heart had just dissipated at this time, and a trace of a smile appeared on her happy little face as she said, "Older sister Lu, you really know a lot. I also understand what you're saying. If I told Mother these words, she would definitely hit me and say that I don't think in the right direction." Lu Qian said, "Everyone has their own way of expressing their thoughts. Your mother used her own way to tell you. Don't think too much about it. I just used a different way to tell you. If you can understand my method, you can tell me anything in the future." Zhang Xiaohua said mischievously, "That's for sure. In the future, I'll have to talk to elder sister." Lu Qian said, "Mischievous little brat, you better hurry up and fetch water. The sun is already high up in the sky. In a while, your mother will scold you again." Zhang Xiaohua stuck out her tongue and said, "Then let's go quickly. However, if I come out with elder sister, Niang Qin definitely won't blame me for coming back late." Although that was what she said, Zhang Xiaohua still hurriedly went to fetch water because her grandmother seemed to like to drink this mountain spring water. In the next few days, her grandmother's situation became worse and worse. She even coughed up blood. Just as Zhang Xiaohua said, her grandmother didn't have an ordinary illness. This time, Guisufei was really anxious. She didn't have time to complain about the veterinarian Old Chin, nor did she have time to take care of her injured family members. She quickly found a donkey cart and wanted to take her grandmother to town to see a doctor. Zhang Xiaohua wanted to go no matter what, but she was still left at home by her mother. The head of the Zhang family, Zhang Kai, also wanted to go. Although his leg injury wasn't completely healed, it was a good opportunity to let the doctor take a look. The donkey cart had limited space, so she could only let her most beloved grandson stay at home. The group of people on the donkey cart set off in the morning. Zhang Xiaohua helped Lu Qian take care of her 2 injured brothers and helped her with the housework. Unfortunately, his mind was still thinking about her grandmother, so he peeked outside from time to time. Although Lu Qian wanted to tell him that their grandmother wouldn't come back until it was dark, but when she saw Zhang Xiaohua, Zhang Xiaolong, and Zhang Xiaohu's 3 brothers' absent-minded and anxious expressions, she held back. She just considerately did the chores at home and didn't say any comforting words. Time passed little by little, and the sky gradually darkened. Finally, Zhang Xiaohua saw the donkey cart that was late. Zhang Xiaohua immediately jumped down from the chair. He didn't call out to his 2 brothers and rushed out of the house. In a hurry, he tripped over a small stool by the door and almost fell. He didn't care about the small stool that was kicked aside and ran out of the door. When he ran out of the small gate, the donkey cart was near. He saw the driver jump down from the donkey cart and walk a few steps forward with the reins of the donkey. Then he stopped in front of Zhang Xiaohua's courtyard. He pulled the reins and stopped the cart in front of the Zhang family's courtyard. There were 3 people in thick clothes sitting at the back of the cart. Their faces couldn't be seen clearly in the twilight. Before the donkey cart came to a stop, Zhang Xiaohua heard one of the people coughing heavily. He walked to the front of the donkey cart with heartache and called out obediently, "Grandma, Unfortunately, his grandmother was coughing with difficulty and couldn't respond to her grandson's greeting. Guo Sufei got down from the cart first and called Zhang Xiaohu, who had rushed over, to help Zhang Kai down first. Then, with Lu Qian and Zhang Xiaohua, he carefully helped his grandmother, who had just finished coughing, down. Zhang Kai paid the driver, and the donkey cart drove off, leaving the Zhang clan's group standing in the twilight. Lu Qian and Zhang Xiaohua helped their grandmother. She coughed all the way to her small house. Hearing her cough, Zhang Xiaohua's heart was broken. But halfway there, her grandmother said with difficulty, "Let's go to the central room first. I'll stay with you for a while." The two followed her words and helped her into the central room. Guo Sufei followed in absent-mindedly. Then Zhang Xiaohu helped Zhang Kai, who was still limping and had a gloomy expression. The last one to enter the room was Zhang Xiaolong, whose arm was still hanging in front of his chest. The central room wasn't big. When everyone came in and sat there silently, the air in the room seemed to have frozen. At this time, her grandmother began to cough again. Lu Qian hurried over and poured a cup of warm water for her grandmother to drink. Only then did her cough gradually stop. Lu Qian wanted to say something to break the silence, but she didn't know what to say. Finally, her grandmother spoke. "The doctors in this town are really expensive. Sufei, let's not go there next time. Every time we see an illness, it costs a qian of silver. How long will it take for our family to spend?" Guo Sufei forced a smile and said, "Mother, listen to what you're saying. If you're sick, you have to go see a doctor. Even if our family is poor, we can't delay this illness." Her grandmother said again, "I know my illness very well. It's not something a doctor can cure. I already said that I won't go, but you still want to waste this money." Guo Sufei's eyes were a little red at this time and said, "Mother, you don't have to worry about us. Doesn't Zhang Kai also need to see a doctor? You're just going in the same direction." Her grandmother sighed and didn't say anything else. After drinking a little more water, her cough seemed to be lighter. Only then did she let Xiaohua help her back to the room to rest. Zhang Xiaohua helped her grandmother to the Kong bed and covered her with a quilt. Her grandmother seemed to be tired and quickly fell asleep. Zhang Xiaohua then tiptoed out of the small room. When she returned to the central room, her mother was sobbing in a low voice and constantly wiping her tears. Her father's face was gloomy as he smoked a pipe. Her eldest brother, second brother, and Lu Qian also didn't look very good. Zhang Xiaohua knew that her grandmother's situation wasn't good. It wasn't beyond her expectations, so she didn't have the heart to ask about the specific situation. She just silently found a small stool and sat in the shadow of the wall. After a long time, Guo Sufei recovered a little and stopped sobbing. It seemed that she only saw Xiaohua come back at this time. She softly asked, "Xiaohua, is your grandmother asleep?" Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, "Yes, mother. Grandmother is probably tired. She fell asleep not long after lying on the Kong bed." Guo Sufei turned her head and asked Zhang Kai, "Child's father, what do you think we should do? Should we go to a bigger city to find a better doctor?" Zhang Kai took a deep breath and exhaled. He narrowed his eyes and said, "Ai, you didn't hear the doctor say that mother's illness isn't a normal cough. It's because she's old and her body can't support it anymore. There's no way to cure it. Moreover, mother's body is like this. Can she go to a bigger city? The closest city to us is Pingyang City. I heard that it would take a day and a night for a horse to run nonstop. I'm afraid that mother won't be able to take it." Guo Sufei was a little sad again. Her voice was a little sobbing. "Then are we just going to watch mother's body collapse bit by bit like this? Mother's cough is so bad every day." Zhang Kai smiled bitterly and said, "There's nothing we can do about it. Didn't the doctor also say that he rarely sees people as old as mother? Moreover, mother's body is considered good for 80 years old. I think we should listen to the doctor and let mother recuperate well. She should rest well, eat well, and live a good life." Guo Sufei also didn't have any other choice. She knew that her mother had reached the end of her life, but she still had hope in her heart. She tried to find a doctor for a long illness, trying to grasp onto something. However, in the face of this cruel reality, how valuable was a little bit of hope? Gua Sufei stared weakly at the flickering flame on the oil lamp. She seemed to be deep in thought. Suddenly, she asked Zhang Kai, that's right, child's father, what did the doctor say that mother ate? Why don't I know about it? Hearing this, Zhang Kai also raised his head and looked at Gua Sufei in confusion. Everyone asked in unison, what did she eat? Zhang Kai knocked on the pipe and said, at that time in the medical hall, the doctor had just diagnosed that your grandmother was already at the end of her life. There was nothing to diagnose. Moreover, this cough was only a kind of illness on the surface. Her body was already in a mess. However, later on, your mother begged him bitterly. After a careful diagnosis, he found that although your grandmother's body was already at its worst, there was a kind of essence energy in her body. However, this essence energy was too little to sustain your grandmother's life. The doctor said that your grandmother must have eaten something good, like ginseng, recently. Everyone was stunned. Ginseng? How could the family have the money to buy that? 0. Chapter 32. Zhang Kai said, it's definitely not ginseng. I've only seen it in a clinic when I was young. Since I came to the Guozhuang house, I haven't seen it again. Everyone was even more confused. What could it be? Usually everyone ate from the same pot, and they ate the same farmhouse food. There was nothing special about it. Everyone was puzzled. Seeing that it was late, Zhang Kai and Gua Sufei had been busy the whole day. They were both physically and mentally exhausted. Everyone left. Zhang Xiaohua tiptoed back to his grandmother's hut. His grandmother was already asleep. Although she coughed softly from time to time, she was still very tired. She was still in a deep sleep and did not notice Xiaohua's movement. Zhang Xiaohua burrowed into her blanket and listened to her grandmother's suppressed coughs and intermittent breathing. Her heart ached, and she couldn't help but think of her grandmother's kindness to her. Bits and pieces of her memories flashed in her mind. Usually, when she was free, she didn't feel that she had deep feelings for her grandmother. But now, she found that her grandmother's memories were deeply engraved in her mind. There were so many, so fine, and she couldn't forget a single bit. Zhang Xiaohua's heart sank. Thinking about it, Zhang Xiaohua shed tears. Tears flowed down his face and slid onto the pillow. Gradually, he fell asleep. Zhang Xiaohua's flickering dream came as scheduled. In the dream, Zhang Xiaohua seemed to be living in a breathing world that flickered rhythmically. His breathing, his body, and everything about him followed the flickering. They flickered unconsciously, gradually becoming one with the world. The next morning, when the first ray of sunlight shone into his grandmother's hut, Zhang Xiaohua opened his eyes on time. The same flickering light flashed in his eyes. The first thing Zhang Xiaohua did after opening his eyes was to listen to his grandmother's voice. However, there was no cough or breathing. He hurriedly got up, only to find that his grandmother was not in the room. When he got up and walked out of the room, he saw his grandmother sitting on a chair in the courtyard. The morning wind was still very cold, blowing his grandmother's white hair in the sun. Zhang Xiaohua's eyes were blurred. He quickly ran over and said to his grandmother, "Grandma, you should go back to your room quickly. The wind in the morning is very cold. Your body is not good to begin with, so don't come out in the morning in the future." Grandma's hand groped for Zhang Xiaohua's head and said lovingly, "Xiaohua, Grandma is old and doesn't sleep much. I can't sleep anymore, so I came out to get some fresh air. I'll go back now, okay?" Zhang Xiaohua didn't say anything. She just silently helped her grandmother back to the warm house. Coming out of the hut, Zhang Xiaohua was still looking at the morning sun in the sky. Suddenly, he remembered what happened a few days ago, so he also did the action of biting the sun. Sure enough, this time he still felt a warm current enter his throat. Zhang Xiaohua was stunned. Could it be that it wasn't his illusion? His eyes rolled a few times. Could this be Tingo eating the sun? Could it be that he had become a Tingo? After pondering for a while, he still couldn't think of a reason. He shook his head and no longer thought about it. He just prepared to take a bite every morning and see what the situation was. After eating a simple breakfast, Zhang Xiaohua went to the slope to get spring water, as usual. Zhang Xiaohua was just about to go out when Lu Qian, who was cleaning up the dishes, called out, "I know what Grandma eats." Everyone was stunned. Zhang Kai asked in puzzlement, "What do you mean by what Grandma eats?" Lu Qian smiled and said, "It was yesterday. Didn't the doctor say that Grandma ate ginseng?" Only then did Zhang Kai come to a realization. Zhang Xiaolong said anxiously, "Hurry up and tell me, what did Grandma eat?" Zhang Xiaohua also stopped in her tracks. Lu Qian said mysteriously, "It should be said that Grandma drank something." "Drink?" Zhang Xiaolong heard the word drink and looked at Zhang Xiaohua. He seemed to understand something. Zhang Xiaohu hadn't finished eating yet. He stared blankly at the bowl of porridge in his hand and said in a daze, "Just this? Is it ginseng? That's not possible." Lu Qian saw that everyone was puzzled, so she explained, "Look, everyone, didn't we think for a long time last night, but we couldn't think of anything special? However, the doctor said that she only ate it recently. In the past, she only drank a little of the well water on the slope occasionally. After I came, I started to eat a lot of the well water, especially Grandma. She only started to drink tea made from the well water recently. The well water that we used to eat also started to be used recently. In terms of time, only this well water fits this condition." Guo Sufei patted her head and said, "That's true. Yesterday, I only thought about eating and didn't think about drinking. Lu Qian is really right." Zhang Kai said, "I believe that ginseng can nourish Mother's body. This water, no matter how good it is it still water? Can it be eaten as a tonic?" He asked Lu Qian doubtfully. Lu Qian didn't know how to answer and said, "Uncle, I don't know about this. Why don't we get a pot of water and send it to the town's medical hall and let them take a look?" Guo Sufei said, "And okay. Why don't we let Xiao Hu bring a pot and run to town to let the doctor take a look?" Zhang Xiaohu said excitedly, "Okay, I'll immediately eat and prepare. My injury is almost healed, so it won't be a problem for me to make a trip." Zhang Xiaohua also said, "I'll go get some water right away. I also want to go to town with second brother." After saying that, she prepared to run up the slope. At this moment, Zhang Kai spoke up. He said, "No, you mustn't go." Everyone was stunned again. Guo Sufei said, "Husband, what do you mean? Why don't you let Xiao Hu and the others go?" Zhang Kai saw that everyone was very strange and said with a wry smile, "Have you forgotten about Mr. Wu from the neighboring village?" Suddenly, Lu Qian and Zhang Xiaohu understood, but the others were still confused. Zhang Xiaohu said curiously, "Father, of course we know about Mr. Wu. He was killed by the bandits because he dug out a treasure." Zhang Kai said, "Then is our well water a treasure?" Zhang Xiaohu said, "We don't know, so we let the town's doctor take a look." Zhang Kai immediately said, "What if it is?" Zhang Xiaohu was speechless and didn't know how to continue. Lu Qian saw that everyone was still confused, so she explained, "Uncle means that if the well water is a treasure and the town's doctor finds out, then it will be a big deal. The well is full of ginseng, which is much more precious than Mr. Wu's box of jewelry. If the bandits find out, then won't they kill and steal the water? Moreover, the well water is not in our courtyard, but far away on the slope. We can't just say that it's ours. If people find out and come to get water, should we let them take it or not? If it's all taken, then what will Grandma drink? What we're most afraid of is that it will be taken over by people with power and no one can get it." Everyone finally understood. Zhang Xiaolong asked again, "If we don't let the doctor take a look, then how do we know if the well water is useful for Grandma?" Lu Qian smiled and said, "Let's not talk about whether the doctor will take the water to the clinic or not, or whether the doctor will be able to tell. Even if the well water is useless, and we don't know if it's useful for Grandma's body, it won't be a loss to us. Don't we still need to drink this water and use it to cook? Then Lu Qian said seriously, if this water is useful, then we might not be able to drink this water in the future. Grandma won't be able to drink it either. She might even be killed. Guosufei quickly said, Lu Qian is right. We can't go to town to find a doctor. Moreover, everyone must keep the well water a secret. Don't tell anyone. Everyone nodded. Zhang Xiaohua shook her head as she went to get the water. She muttered to herself, in this world, people's hearts are not what they used to be. No matter what you do, you have to protect yourself first. It's so hard to be a human. Since that day, Zhang Xiaohua had been fetching water from the slope more often. All the water in the house, including food, drink, and washing, were replaced with the well water. They no longer used the river water by the village. It seemed that everyone was hoping for a miracle to happen to Grandma. Grandma's body was still weak, and her coughing did not seem to ease. However, Zhang Kai, Zhang Xiaolong, and Zhang Xiaohu's injuries were rapidly recovering day after day, especially Zhang Xiaolong. When he went to the veterinarian Old Chin to change his medicine for the first time, Old Chin could hardly believe his eyes. He looked and touched Zhang Xiaolong again and again. Finally, in front of the facts, he had to believe that Zhang Xiaolong had really recovered more than half. His broken bones were about to be healed. He completely ignored Guosufei's face full of joy and thanked him profusely. He hurriedly sent them away and ran into his own pharmacy. He carefully kept the medicine that he had made for Zhang Xiaolong only once. He was secretly proud, who said that he could only be a veterinarian. This was the first time he made the medicine, and it had such an effect. Could it be that he had the potential to be a miracle doctor? It seemed that he had to change his profession someday. He would open a miracle doctor's clinic in the bustling area of Lu Town. With this magical medicine, wouldn't he make a fortune? Not to mention the veterinarian Old Chen's wild imagination. The whole Zhang family was happy to see that Zhang Xiaolong's injury recovered so quickly. They were more and more aware that it was due to the well water. Grandma was in a particularly good mood when she learned that her grandson's arm had recovered. Her face was also smiling like a flower. Her cough was also light. The whole family was very happy. As for Lu Qian, she did not know what she was feeling. She was very surprised to see that Zhang Xiaolong came back without a splint. She was happy with everyone, but after a while, she felt a sense of loss. She tried to avoid this emotion and did not admit her thoughts, but she knew that she really liked this family and Zhang Xiaolong. She did not want to leave here and return to her home. Was her home not good? She asked herself. The answer was no. She also liked her home, but it seemed that the feeling of her home was different from the feeling here. What was the difference? Maybe it was because of Zhang Xiaolong. However, Zhang Xiaolong's injury was healed. What reason did she have to stay here? 0. Chapter 33. That night, the Zhang family was very lively. It had not been so lively since the New Year. The stone in everyone's heart was temporarily thrown away. During dinner, Zhang Kai even poured himself a few cups to celebrate his son's recovery. After dinner, everyone was busy with some farm work under the oil lamp. They were also happily talking about how to cultivate the crops in the fields after spring, how to fertilize the newly opened fields on the slope, and how to divide the work among Zhang Xiaolong, Zhang Xiaohu, and Zhang Xiaolong's 3 brothers. It was as if the next day was the spring plowing, and their eyes were full of hope. Under the flickering light, no one noticed the lonely expression on Lu Qian's face. Also, Zhang Xiaohua's thoughtful eyes. The next morning, Lu Qian reluctantly got up at dawn. Last night, she was so worried about her gains and losses that she couldn't sleep. When she got up, she found that her eyes were a little red and her complexion was not good. Guosufei was concerned and asked if she was sick. After breakfast, everyone was busy with their own things. It was now February and the weather was warm. Zhang Kai and the others were also checking the farm tools to see if there were any broken ones that needed to be repaired. The seeds in the cellar also needed to be taken out to dry. Seeing that the ice in the river had melted, the field should also be thawed and ready for cultivation. Spring was coming. Just as Lu Qian was helping Guo Sufei to dry the seeds under the sun, she suddenly heard someone call her. Qian Qian, what a familiar voice! She quickly raised her head and looked over the Zhang family's low wall. She saw her father, Uncle Lu Tufu, and cousin Luya, who had already walked to the door. She cried out in surprise, "Father!" Then, like a swallow, she flew to the door and took her father's hand. How could she not miss her family after not seeing them for almost half a month? So, when she saw them, her eyes were red and her nose was sour. Luya said, "Sister, I'm here too. Can't you see me?" Lu Qian also took her hand and said, "I see you. How can I not see you? I only have such a beautiful sister. How can I not see you?" Lu Ye giggled and said, "Sister, look at you. You haven't seen father for a few days, and your eyes are already red. Don't say that I'm crying in the future. You're not any better. Aya, your complexion is so bad. Could it be that you suffered at their place? But that's not right. Your skin seems to be more delicate than before. It's also a lot whiter. You're also a little fatter than before. Why is it that after not seeing you for 10 days, your beauty has actually caught up to mine?" Lu Qian rebuked, "You little girl, you're just using nice words to scare me." Lu Ye panicked and said, "It's true, sister. I'm not talking nonsense. If you don't believe me, look in the mirror." Lu Qian's heart skipped a beat, but she did not continue the conversation. How could Mr. Lu and Butcher Lu notice this? He thought it was just two children playing around. At this time, Zhang Kai also came out with his family to welcome them. Mr. Lu hurriedly went forward to salute and asked Zhang Kai, "Brother, I haven't seen you for a long time. Are you feeling better?" Zhang Kai also returned the salute and said, "Thanks to brother, I'm already better now. Look, I even threw away my crutches." Then he had Zhang Xiaohu and Zhang Xiaohua come up to greet him. The last time Mr. Lu came, he saw everyone. However, at that time, the two brothers were lying on the sickbed. Meeting them this time, looking at the two dignified young people, he couldn't help but praise in his heart. These two children, although their looks are ordinary, it's rare that they're so introverted. They've never studied before, but they actually have such a temperament. Children can be taught. He hurriedly helped the three of them up and said with a smile, "It seems that the two of you have recovered from your injuries. This is worthy of celebration. However, nephew Xiaolong injured his muscles and bones. It's better for him to be more careful. He can only work after resting for 100 or so days. Don't hurt your body for the farm work in front of you." "Oh, right. How come you've removed the splint in just 10 days? Zhang Xiaolong moved his arm and said, "I'll pay attention to Uncle's words. Look, my arm is fine now. Although I can't do heavy work, I reckon that after a few days ordinary farm work shouldn't be a problem." Butcher Lu continued, "Nephew's body isn't just strong. Our village's Wang air fell on his, but when he went up the mountain to chop firewood and had to lie in bed for half a year. You've recovered in just a few days? Let me take a look." As he said this, he went forward to grab Zhang Xiaolong's arm. Lu Qian was anxious and quickly blocked her uncle's hand. She said, "Uncle, your hand is used to carrying 100 or so pounds of fat pig. Xiaolong's arm is just right. If you grab Xiaolong's hand like this, don't damage his arm." Butcher Lu awkwardly retracted his hand and said with a self-deprecating smile, "Then I won't look. I won't look." Lu Yeye seemed to have noticed something and used her elbow to poke Lu Qian. She winked at her and smiled mischievously. Lu Qian's face heated up and her hands and feet became uncomfortable. Fortunately, at this time, Mr. Lu saw Zhang Xiaohua again. He patted his head and said, "Xiaohua, I haven't seen you for a few days and you've grown quite a bit. I see that by the end of this year, you'll be able to catch up to your two brothers. Also, looking at your eyes, they're overflowing with energy. I feel that you've become a lot more sensible." These words weren't false. When Mr. Lu first saw Zhang Xiaohua, he had just been beaten up by a bully and was worried about his father and brother's injuries. Naturally, his expression was gloomy and listless. Now that his family's injuries were mostly healed, His mood was naturally good. Moreover, there was also an unknown reason, so he naturally looked different. Zhang Xiaohua was also obedient. He raised his head and said, "Uncle, this is all thanks to Sister Lu. Not only did she take care of Big Brother and help our mother with the housework, she also taught me a lot of principles and taught me to recognize many words. With her influence, I naturally became more sensible." These words made Mr. Lu's heart very happy. He laughed loudly and said, good child. Brother, I envy you for having such good children." Zhang Kai said modestly, "We've neglected to discipline them. They also don't know how to read and write." "Brother, you must be joking." Mr. Lu disagreed. "That's not true. This is innate temperament and not something that can be cultivated. Even if your family has a lot of money, it's rare to have such good children." Butcher Lu said, "You two stop flattering each other. We're all familiar with each other. After walking for an entire morning, my throat is so thirsty that it's about to smoke. Let's go in and drink some water." When Zhang Kai and Mr. Lu heard this, they both laughed loudly. Zhang Kai quickly led everyone into the central room. Everyone sat down to talk. Guo Sufei and Lu Qian went to boil water and make tea. Lu Yeye also followed. Taking advantage of the fact that the water hadn't boiled and Guo Sufei went into the room to get tea leaves, Lu Ye quietly asked Lu Qian, "Sister, are you interested in that Zhang Xiaolong?" Lu Qian blushed and said, "What do you mean by interested? When did I?" Lu Ye mocked her and said, "Looking at your shy face and peach blossom eyes, I know that you're thinking of love. Why don't you honestly admit it?" Lu Qian said, "You little brat, why do you have so many flowery words? Don't tell me you didn't come to see Zhang Xiaohu?" When Lu Ye heard this, she also said seriously, "Sister, your words are wrong. Have you forgotten what we said before? Although Zhang Xiaohu and Zhang Xiaolong are good people and saved us, but our dream is to marry a learned, elegant, and handsome scholar. The two of them do farm work and will be digging for food in the fields for the rest of their lives. Don't tell me we'll also be farm women for the rest of our lives." At that time, I was very grateful to Zhang Xiaohu and did have a good impression of him. Now I don't deny it. But after thinking about it carefully, I don't want to jump into this fire pit. Sister, you have to understand that this is a matter of a lifetime. If you make the wrong choice, it will be too late to regret. At this time, Lu Qian also stopped smiling and said seriously, Yes, I am also like this. That's why I am especially hesitant. Although I hope that my husband is a scholar, after meeting so many scholars over the years, none of them left a deep impression on me as Zhang Xiaolong, this farmer. He has a temperament and courage that most people don't have. I have only known him for a short period of time, and this short period of time is more profound than many people in a few decades. I can't tell you how I feel in my heart. It can't be described with words. Actually, your choice is not wrong. My choice is not wrong. Everyone has their own freedom and has to choose their own choice. Lu Ye smiled bitterly and said, Sister, I hope your choice is not wrong. In the future, Lu Qian interrupted her and said, It's too early to say this. I haven't made a final choice. Lu Ye did not ask any more, and the two of them were silent. Not long after, Guo Sufei took out the tea leaves and boiled the water. Lu Qian steeped the tea, and the three of them returned to the central room together. The people in the central room were laughing and chatting. They were in the middle of a lively conversation. Lu Qian poured the tea for everyone and sat down without saying a word, thinking about her own worries. The members of the Zhang family were used to drinking this tea, so they did not mind. Butcher Lu gulped it down like a cow and did not taste anything. As for Lu Ye, she seemed to have something on her mind. She took a sip absent-mindedly and put it down. She did not even notice Zhang Xiaohu's casual glance. Only Mr. Lu inadvertently drank a mouthful, and then his expression changed greatly. He did not believe it and drank a second mouthful. He frowned deeply. Then he smelled the tea fragrance floating from the teacup and drank a third mouthful. Only then did he become surprised and was about to speak. Zhang Kai saw Mr. Lu drink 3 mouthfuls of tea and hurriedly asked, "Brother, is there a problem with this tea? Is it not tasty?" Mr. Lu said, "No, it's not that it's not tasty, it's too tasty." "Brother, what kind of tea is this?" Zhang Kai said awkwardly, "Brother, I don't know. Our family never drank tea before. This is the tea that Lu Qian brought from your family." Mr. Lu turned his head and asked Lu Qian, "Qian, is this tea from home?" Lu Qian was thinking about her own worries. When she heard her father ask her, she hurriedly said, "What is it?" "Father, what are you asking me?" 0. Chapter 34. Mr. Lu asked with concern, Qian, are you feeling unwell?" Lu Qian smiled and said, "Father, it's nothing. I'm just a bit distracted. What did you ask me just now?" Mr. Lu said, "Did you bring this tea from home?" Lu Qian understood her father's meaning and said, "Yes, father. It's the kind that you often drink. The last time I came, I brought it for myself to drink. Do you think that this tea is especially delicious?" Mr. Lu tasted another mouthful and said, "Yes, it doesn't taste like the tea I drink at home. This tea's fragrance is really enticing." Mr. Lu didn't have any hobbies in his life, but he liked to drink tea. He drank a lot of different types of tea and had prepared a lot of them at home. Otherwise, Lu Qian wouldn't like to drink tea. However, the tea he drank today was different from the ones he drank in the past. There was an indescribable fragrance in his mouth. These tea leaves were what he used on a daily basis. It must be the water used to brew the tea that was different. Mr. Lu was flabbergasted. Although the Guozhuang house was far from Baligo, it was only half a day's journey. How could the water quality be so different? Mr. Lu asked, Qian, why is the water in the Guozhuang house so much better than the water in Baligo?" Lu Qian blinked her eyes at Mr. Lu and said, "Yes, father. The water here is really clear and delightful." Lu Qian knew that this uncle of hers was famous for being outspoken. If he knew something, it meant that all the villagers in Ba Ligo knew. She had already told him not to tell anyone about what happened in Lu Town. Who knew if everyone in Ba Ligo already knew about it? The matter of the well water was something that she couldn't let him leak out. Mr. Lu saw Lu Qian blinking at him and tacitly stopped asking. However, Butcher Lu heard it and interrupted. "Isn't that simple? Let Zhang Xiao Long send you a bucket every day." Mr. Lu was happy and said, "Second brother, let's not talk about the half a day's journey from the Guozhuang house to Baligo. Even if it was delivered, the water might not be as good as it is now." Seeing that Butcher Lu didn't understand, he continued, "It's best if the water used to make the tea is freshly fetched from the river. If it's left for too long, the vitality in the water will be gone, and the tea fragrance will be gone." Butcher Lu's face was full of disdain as he said, "Only you scholars are so particular. Why don't I feel the same way? Don't you think so, Brother Zhang?" After saying that, he picked up the teacup and drank it in one gulp. On the other side, Zhang Kai also chuckled. He didn't say anything and drank the tea in his cup. Lu Qian went forward and poured another cup for everyone. Mr. Lu picked up the newly poured cup of tea and placed it by his nose. He sniffed it carefully and then sipped it with his mouth. He also tasted it carefully. There was an indescribable sense of satisfaction. Butcher Lu mocked. "What's so good about this water that's so bland that it's like a bird? Drinking wine is more satisfying." Mr. Lu pursed his lips and said, "How can you know my joy? Our interests are different, so we don't talk much. Unfortunately, after drinking this tea today, how am I supposed to taste tea in the future?" Butcher Lu was happy and said, "Isn't that simple? You can move to the Guozhuang house and live there. I heard that the Guozhuang house doesn't have a teacher. If you come, they can't wait to welcome you." Mr. Lu's eyes lit up and said, "Even a boor like you can think of such a good idea. This saying is true. The ancients said, if you eat 300 lychees a day, you will not refuse to be a person of Lingnan. It's rare that I'm fated to encounter such good water and good tea. To be able to become a person of the Guozhuang house for this good tea, it can be considered a good story. He said it casually, but it sounded meaningful. Mr. Lu's words, "It's rare that we're fated," woke Lu Qian from her daydream. It was like a bolt of lightning that struck Lu Qian's heart, splitting open the knot in her heart that had been tangled in her heart for many days. Yes, it's rare that we're fated. A few days ago, she still felt that she was fated with Zhang Xiaolong. Now that she had walked into a dead end, she actually doubted this fate. Now that she thought about it carefully, from the moment she met Zhang Xiaolong, he was injured in order to save her. She took care of his injuries to repay his kindness. Then she discovered the precious well water, and now her father was willing to come to the Guozhuang house. She completely dispelled her last layer of apprehension that she was unwilling to marry far away in order to take care of her father. She was clear that this well water was only available in the Zhang family. She couldn't drink it anywhere else in the Guozhuang house. Thinking about the miraculous uses of the well water, she was even more moved. This was a guarantee for her father's health. Didn't all of this mean that she was fated with Zhang Xiaolong? This fate was predestined by the heavens. Wasn't it enough for her to be proud of? A single thought leads to everything. The large stone in Lu Qian's heart was lifted by the heavens. At this time, she finally noticed everyone's reaction after her father finished speaking. Seeing that everyone didn't understand, Lu Qian explained, "This lychee is a very delicious fruit in the legends. It only grows in a place like Lingnan. After the ancients ate this lychee, they couldn't forget it. They sighed and said that if they could eat lychees every day, they would be willing to move to Lingnan." Only then did everyone understand. Zhang Kai said in surprise, "If Mr. Lu wants to move to our Guozhuang house, we'll definitely welcome you. I'll go back and report to the Guozhuang house's clan head to arrange a place for my brother." Mr. Lu hurriedly said, "Old brother, this matter isn't urgent. We'll talk about it later. Let's leave it for fate, haha." Then Mr. Lu took another sip of tea and said the real purpose of his visit to the Zhang family. He looked at Zhang Kai and said, "Old brother, the main purpose of our visit this time is to bring Qian Qian home for a while. This child has already stayed here for a period of time. She must be homesick. Our family also needs her to go back and tidy up. This month, Yeye should have come over a long time ago. Last time, she didn't come with Qian Qian because our family also needs a girl to take care of them. This time, let her come over and swap places with Qian Qian. What do you think?" Zhang Kai didn't dare to express his opinion. He hurriedly turned to look at Guo Sufei. Guo Sufei looked at Mr. Lu and Butcher Lu's sincere expressions, as well as Lu Ye's expressionless face. She already had an idea in her heart. She smiled and said to Mr. Lu and Butcher Lu, "We appreciate the two brothers' intentions. In the time that Qian Qian has stayed here, she has helped us a lot. Xiaolong, Xiaohu, as well as our family head, have all recovered from their injuries. They can basically move around without hindrance. Qian Qian also doesn't need to stay here to take care of Xiaolong and the others. If Mr. Lu wants Qian Qian to go back, I'll pack up the child's things and go back with you guys in the afternoon. There's no need for you, Yeye, to stay here." Hearing Guo Sufei's words, Lu Ye's face clearly showed a burst of joy. Lu Qian raised her head and inadvertently saw the disappointment between Zhang Xiaohu's brows. Her heart couldn't help but let out a thump as she thought to herself, "This Zhang Xiaohu is usually quiet, and I've never heard him ask about you. Looking at his expression now, it's a bit troublesome. When I have time, I'll have to remind Zhang Xiaohu that my sister's thoughts are clearly not here." Butcher Lu wasn't happy and said, "Sister-in-law, look at what you're saying. Didn't we already agree before that you would also do her best? Now that she's here, how can we let her slack off?" Guo Sufei smiled and said, "Brother Lu, I know that you're a straightforward person. If we have any difficulties, how can we hide it from you? Look at these two children and your brother Zhang. They're all glowing with health, and it's easy for them to move around. There's really no need for your daughter to stay." Mr. Lu also smiled at this time and stopped Butcher Lu's insistence. He said, "Since sister-in-law has said so, then I'm sure there's really no need for the children to stay. Second brother, there's no need to insist on anything. As for whether Qian will come back with us later, it's better to ask her first." Lu Qian thought for a moment and said, "How about this, father? I won't go home with you this time. There's you to take care of the family, so there shouldn't be a big problem. I've only been out for less than a month. Although I miss home, it's not to the point where I have to go home. Moreover, Xiaolong's injuries have reached the final stage. I can't leave with a strong start but a weak finish. I'll wait until he's fully recovered." Butcher Lu couldn't help but stand up and say, "Did you just discuss this with your father? Why do you speak so much like your father?" Lu Qian asked curiously, "Second uncle, what do you mean?" Before Butcher Lu could speak, Lu Yu spoke up, "Sister, on the way here just now, the two elders made a bet. Your father said that you definitely won't go home, but my father said that you will. My father asked why, and your father said that Qian has never liked to leave with a strong start. She's only been at the Guozhuang house for less than a month. Presumably, Zhang Xiaolong's injuries haven't healed yet. Under these circumstances, she definitely won't go home. See, what you said is very similar to what your father said. Of course, my father was very angry and thought that the two of you colluded together. This Lu Yu was very eloquent. She used the words your father and my father to make everyone laugh." Lu Qian said to Butcher Lu, "Second uncle, you've watched me grow up. How can you not know my temper?" Butcher Lu said helplessly, "I only remember that you were a little girl with a runny nose. Who knew that you would grow up in a few years? How can I remember your temper? I thought that since you've never left home, you would miss home. But you're still not as good as your own father." While they were talking, Guo Sufei saw that it was getting late and went out to prepare lunch. Lu Qian and Lu Yu naturally went out to help, leaving the group of men to chat in the house. The Zhang family's meal was as simple as usual. It didn't take long for it to be ready. Zhang Xiaohua also came back with wine from outside the village. Butcher Lu was naturally beaming with joy. After lunch, the sun was already setting in the west. Mr. Lu and his group of 3 bid farewell and returned to the village. Mr. Lu invited Zhang Kai and said, "Brother, tomorrow is the 2nd day of the 2nd lunar month. There's a temple fair at Baligo. Why don't you come to my place for a small gathering tomorrow?" Zhang Kai thought about it and refused. "Although my injuries have healed, I still haven't fully recovered. It's inevitable that I'll get sick if I go too far. Moreover, the elders at home are still sick. It's better not to go too far. When I have time in the future, I'll definitely pay them a visit." Mr. Lu knew that it was the truth, so he didn't insist. Everyone parted at the village entrance. Lu Qian brought Zhang Xiaohua along and sent them off. Only then did they reluctantly part and watch their loved ones gradually disappear into the distance. 0. Chapter 35. In the Misty School's meeting hall, the Misty Six Tigers and Zhang Qinghua were discussing the development of the faction and the meeting between Peng and the other factions on the 2nd of February. Peng was still sitting in his usual spot. He looked at his senior and junior brothers, who had grown up together with him from the front. After nearly 10 days of rest, he seemed to have completely controlled his power that had skyrocketed. The light in his eyes was already restrained. Based on his appearance, it was impossible to tell that he was a martial arts expert. He had truly returned to his natural state. Peng was very pleased. In fact, he wasn't the only one who was happy. Aside from Zhang Qinghua, who didn't take any pills, everyone else was in a very good mood. Of course, after 10 days of cultivation, their original excitement had already calmed down. What they needed to do now was to readjust the development strategy of the Misty School and work hard to strengthen the faction. They wanted to quickly become a super faction that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the Dahlin Temple, Incense Sect, and Heaven's Way Union. Peng coughed and cleared his throat before saying, "Fellow disciples, Congratulations again on your great improvement in martial arts. The others returned the greeting and said, Congratulations, congratulations. Thank you, faction leader, for your help. Oh, Peng continued. Now that our Misty School strength has greatly improved, I don't know what the other 3 factions are doing. Chengyue, is there any news from them? Zhang, Chengyue quickly said, reporting to faction leader, there's news from Wan Jian Peak. Sword Master Wan Qingjiu and his protectors have been in seclusion for a few days. After they came out, they were like everyone else and didn't see any outsiders. They must have improved their strength. The Tan family is a family business, and the spies we sent out can't enter the upper echelons, so we don't know the specific situation. As for Yanming Villa, we can't interfere at all. The servants outside know very little and don't know the situation inside the villa. Peng wasn't too happy and said, Chengyue, you've already done a lot of work in this area, but it's not enough. We need to expand the Misty School in the future. We can't do without news. You need to speed up and use all kinds of methods to nail our spies in the various factions. Without news, we'll be blind. Zhang Qingyue's face was full of guilt as he said, Yes, master. I'll definitely pay attention in the future. Peng continued, This is because I didn't instruct you properly. Before, I only let you practice martial arts, but now I need to teach you more about the faction's affairs. In this regard, you should learn more from your 4th martial uncle and be more attentive in the future. Zhang Chengyue nodded. Then Peng said, The medicinal herbs in the secret plane, the pharmacy hall has refined another batch of medicinal pills. Now there are nearly 50 pills in total. Martial brothers, tomorrow afternoon, prepare to go into seclusion and practice. Pay attention to keep this a secret. Also, Chengyu, you should inform your junior brothers as well. Everyone nodded. Peng thought for a moment and said, Chengyu, pick a few of the 2nd and 3rd generation disciples with good aptitudes and come to the discussion hall tomorrow. The core disciples still need to be expanded. At this moment, Shangguan Laosi interjected, Senior brother sect leader, now that our ethereal sect strength has increased greatly, we should consider how to expand the scope of our strength. Peng nodded and said, Yes, this is also one of the topics for today's gathering. Boss who suggested, 4th brother, expansion isn't something that can be achieved in one bite. Do you have any ideas? Shangguan 4th brother said, These past few days, I've been thinking about this problem. Now I have a little idea. Peng smiled and said, Then hurry up and say it. Who doesn't know that you're our Misty School's treasure of wisdom? Shangguan 4th brother said, Actually, this idea isn't that difficult. I think the first step is to follow Senior's idea and raise the strength of our core disciples. We'll use these core disciples to form an elite group and assign them to the Foreign Affairs Hall to carry out the task of expanding our influence. Our Southern sect's strength has increased because of this opportunity. It's not suitable for us to fight with them at this stage. Moreover, Senior may form an alliance with them next time, so we can't touch the South. The Luo Shui gang in the east and the Golden Crow sect in the west used to be weaker than us. They're good targets for us to make a move on. However, if we attack them at the same time, it will divide our strength. Senior needs to weigh the pros and cons. Peng thought for a moment and said, For now, let's set it as the Luo Shui gang. The Golden Crow sect is in the west, and their influence intersects with the 10,000 Sword sect. I'm afraid they're in cahoots with the 10,000 Sword sect. Who knows? The 10,000 Swords sect might also be watching them. The Luo Shui gang has always been based on the Luo River. This is what we lack. Now that they're still young, we'll take them down first. Advancing on land and water will bring endless benefits to our Misty School. Boss who said, 3rd brother, water is our weakness. Why don't we attack the Xianrong sect in the east? After all, the Xianrong sect's foundation isn't very deep. On land, we're also confident. Peng smiled and said to Boss Hu, Eldest brother, you and I have been deceived by the Xianrong sect's low profile. I just received news that the leader of the Exanrong sect is an abandoned disciple of the Dalan Temple's law-enforcing elder. This Exanrong sect is obviously a pawn that the Dalan Temple has planted in our Pingyang City and Yu City. We can't act blindly. Besides, although the Luo Shui gang originated from the Luo Shui gang, as long as we make a move first and plan well, our chances of success are still very high. Peng took a sip of tea and continued. Moreover, our Misty School has always been on land. Pingyang City's location is also sandwiched between the Luo Shui gang, the Golden Crow sect, and the Exanrong sect. There's limited space for development. If we take over the Luo Shui gang's influence and make use of the Luo River, it'll be very beneficial for the gang's development. Everyone was silent and deep in thought. After half a cup of tea's time, Shengguan Laosi spoke. Fourth brother, according to this train of thought, I don't think I've sent enough people. Peng said, I've long thought about this. The development of the Misty School requires manpower. In the past, our sect focused on elites. Now that the strength of our senior disciples has increased, the number of junior disciples is obviously insufficient. How about this? Qingyue, you consider recruiting a batch of disciples recently to strengthen our sect's strength. You can handle the details. Zhang Chengyue nodded in agreement. Then, Peng said to Zhang Chengyue, Qingyue, you can leave first. Inform your junior brothers that you should also rest well and prepare to improve your skills tomorrow. Zhang Qingyue's excited face was flushed red as he bowed and left. Lu Lao, who had not interjected all this while spoke now, isn't it just improving your skills? Looking at you, Chengyue, what's there to be excited about? Zhang, Qingyue thought to himself, Old master, that's improving my skills. How can I not be excited? I heard that you've improved your skills for 20 years. How can I not be excited? Of course, his mouth still said, yes, fifth Shirshu is right. Martial nephew should be calm in the face of chaos. Peng said, don't listen to your fifth Shirshu's nonsense. However, you shouldn't be too excited. When you take the medicine, you must use it calmly. Otherwise, it will be a waste. Zhang Chengyue quickly walked out, only wanting to quickly leave fifth Shirshu's sight. When Zhang Chengyue walked out of the conference hall, Peng looked back and said to Lu Lao with a smile, Fifth Shitty, Chengyue is a steady child. Don't always make fun of him. Su Lao also said, hee, you're still talking about him. When Lao took the bone-strengthening pill that day, wasn't he just as excited? When he came out, he drank with the stone cow. If he wasn't happy, how could he be so drunk? Lu Lao's face turned red as he argued. I absorbed the medicine and was tired from cultivating. Otherwise, how could I not drink as much as the stone cow? Everyone roared with laughter. Then Peng sternly said to everyone, Brothers, the medicine taken from the secret plane last time has been refined. In a few days, it will be the second day of the dragon raises its head. Our 4 sects have agreed to meet at Wudong Mountain. This time, we will discuss the next time we enter the secret plane to take the medicine. Perhaps we will discuss the alliance. What do you all think? Shangguan Lao said, Senior, I think this alliance is unlikely. Peng said, why? Shangguan Lao explained, Of course, one Jianfeng and our Misty School can form an alliance. We are all Jianghu gangs. We share fortune and misfortune together. However, Yanming Villa and the Tan family, although they are in Jianghu, they basically don't participate in Jianghu affairs. They have no reason and no strength to form an alliance with us. Peng touched his chin thoughtfully and said, Of course, a superficial alliance won't work. Our 4 sects can explain to other Jianghu sects in terms of development, sphere of influence, and gang composition. If we announce an alliance, it will definitely attract the attention of other sections. At that time, we will lose more than we gain. I prefer a loose alliance or an alliance between the 4 leaders, rather than an alliance between gangs. This way, we can share the secret of the secret plane and keep the news of the secret plane from leaking. Hu Lao nodded and said this idea is good. The purpose of this alliance is only for the secret plane. It is separated from the interests of the gangs. Once any party leaks the news of the secret plane, the other 3 sects will kill them together. O Peng smiled bitterly and said, if the news is leaked, there will be no need for the other 3 sects to crusade. There will soon be a bloody storm in Jianghu. So, we must seize the time to strengthen our own strength. Then O Peng turned his head and asked Li Lao, who had been looking down and not speaking, Second Senior, have you read the sword manual? Li Lao nodded and didn't reply. O Peng didn't care and continued to ask, how many of our Misty School's current disciples can change? Li Lao also shook his head. O Peng said a little dispiritedly, alas, it is indeed inappropriate to change halfway. Fourth Senior, when Chengyu recruits disciples, you can also choose some of them to practice this sword manual. At the same time, you can also ask Second Senior to guide you. It is best if Second Senior can take in a few more disciples. Li Lao nodded in agreement. It seemed that since his strength improved last time, he was more focused on the cultivation of the sword and didn't speak much. 0. Chapter 36. The main person in charge of cultivating the disciples of the Misty School was Shangguan Laosi, so he naturally nodded in agreement. O Peng continued, although there are a lot of herbs in this secret plane, they are still limited. Last time I brought back some herbs, I asked Yen to take one of them and cultivate them in her Huan-Shi mountain villa, but I don't know if it will be effective. Sixth junior brother, you have to pay attention to this. If Yen has any requests, you have to do your best to coordinate. Su Laosi smiled and said, no problem, third senior brother. Yen, this girl likes to fiddle with strange things the most. Maybe we can really cultivate good herbs for her. At the mention of O Peng, this sister, everyone's face was full of smiles. Boss, who also said time really flies. In the blink of an eye, Yen, this little girl is also an adult. How can we not be old? Lu Laosi, who was drinking silently and didn't participate in the discussion, also said, that's right. The little girl who peed on my head back then has now become a heroine. O Peng glared and said, these words can only be said in front of the brothers. If there's an outsider or Yener present, you absolutely can't say it. Then he added, unless you don't want your big axe anymore. Lu Laosi shrank his head and said, I know, I don't want this great aunt to sink my axe into the Luo River again. Everyone burst into laughter, and the tense atmosphere was swept away. Everyone tasted the tea for a while, then Boss, who said, Laosi, it's not far from the 2nd of February. You also have to prepare. Ask Laosi, and Laosi to go with you. Also pick a group of capable disciples from the 2nd generation so that they can take care of each other. O Peng shook his head and said, I think this year's 2nd of February will be the same as last year. I will only bring Madame O and a few serving maids. It will look like we are going to the Dragon God Temple to burn incense. We can't let others know. Shangguan Laosi shook his head and said, third senior brother, our Misty School has made such a big move. There's no way they wouldn't notice it. Maybe they don't know our real trump card, but we can't let our guard down. It's better to bring more people, just in case. O Peng pondered for a moment and said, fourth martial brother, you're still looking at the situation with the same eyes as before. Right now, our martial arts are well known in Jianghu and can be ranked at the top. I believe that if I insist on escaping, there aren't many people in Jianghu who can stop me. And those few people can be counted with one's fingers. How could they lower themselves to ambush me? Shangguan Laosi gave Boss Hu a look. Boss Hu thought for a moment and said, Lao San, what Laosi said makes sense. It's better to be safe than sorry. Jianghu is full of conspiracies and intrigues. Protecting yourself is the way to go. You're the face of our Misty School, so you can't afford to have any mishaps. How about this? Since you don't want to attract attention, then you don't need to bring too many people. Why don't you bring Laosi and the girls with you? Before he finished, O Peng didn't say anything. Instead, Lu Laowu applauded and said, "Big brother, that's a good idea. That Lao Si used to be a cart driver. After not driving for a few years, he's probably itching for a fight. Moreover, his body is now like an iron shield. He can block the hidden weapons for sister-in-law." Openg had no choice but to agree and said, "All right, then it's settled. I won't bring the second-generation disciples. They still need to improve their skills. Don't delay their development. As for those who don't improve their skills this time, it's useless for me to bring them along." Everyone saw that Openg had given in and didn't insist on it anymore. After arranging the sex affairs, everyone dispersed. The candles in the meeting hall were extinguished. The dark hall was like an old man in his twilight years. He closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep. Yu City was the main city of Yu Country. It was a few days' journey from Pingyang City. Openg set off early the next day. Since he was going to the Longshin Temple to offer incense, he had to be dressed to do so. He couldn't use his light body technique to travel alone. Just as Lu Laowu said, that Lao Si was an experienced cart driver. When he heard that he was going to drive the sect master's cart to Yu City, he got on the horse early and checked the condition of the cart carefully. Now he was driving the cart smoothly and proudly on the road. He was enjoying it very much. Openg and Madame O sat in the cart. Although this cart was specially made by the sect, it was rare to see it so stable. Openg looked at the cup full of wine on the small table in the room. He couldn't help but smile and say to Madame O, "This Lao Si's skills in driving the cart are not to be trifled with. We can't go without him when we go out in the future." Madame O also smiled sweetly and said, "That's a waste of his talent." Openg said, "What is lacking the most in the martial arts world today? Talent. This is talent. He has the ability to fight against 10,000 people and can drive so steadily. He's a compound talent. My Misty School has hidden dragons and crouching tigers." Madame O rebuked, "You, the sect master, are serious in the sect. Why do you have a bad smile on your face now? Speaking of compound talents, you're the best in the sect. Not only are you the best in the world at ethereal steps, but you're also the best in making your wife happy." Openg laughed and said to the outside, "Lao Si, good job. You're the best at driving a cart in the sect. I can't compare to you. You're not good at making your wife happy. I'm the best in the sect." When the stone cow heard this, he laughed out loud and drove the cart even harder. Madame O blushed in the cart and hit Openg, causing the maids in the cart to laugh softly. At this time, the Lao Si's wild singing came from outside the cart. It must be because the Lao Si had traveled to a remote place and the Lao Si sang. Everyone listened carefully. The Lao Si sang, "Sister, you sit at the bow of the boat. I walk on the shore. Love and love, the rope swings." It was a song that the Lao Si had learned from somewhere. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. After traveling for a few days, they were about to reach Yu City. The journey was peaceful, and they didn't encounter any trouble. The road outside Yu City was very wide, and there were many trees planted along the road. The weather was warm now, and there was some greenery on the treetops. There were also many passers-by, and the cart could no longer gallop as freely as before. However, under the Lao Si's skillful driving, the speed didn't slow down. Madame O looked at the scenery outside the window and praised, "This Yu City is indeed the main city of our Yu nation. It's much more prosperous than Pingyang City. Even the outskirts are so lively. I wonder if the Dragon God Temple is full of people now." When the cart arrived at the Dragon God Temple, they realized that the inside and outside of the temple were full of people. There was no place for the cart to stop. Fortunately, Openg and the rest had martial arts and weren't afraid of the crowd. They moved slowly with the crowd and soon arrived in front of the temple. Everything was the same as in the past. Openg and his wife offered incense to the dragon god, made a wish, kowtowed, and gave alms. Then they followed the crowd out of the dragon god temple. The Lao Si stood on the cart and looked around. When he saw Openg and the rest coming over, he immediately jumped down from the cart and said, "Sect Master, Why are you out so soon? Opang said, there are so many people coming here every year. The incense is very prosperous. The monks in the temple are all busy and can't talk to their abbot. We'll talk about it when we have time. The Lao Si gestured for everyone to get on the cart and then asked, Opang, sect master, are we going to the U City branch now? Opang waved his hand and said, there's no hurry to go to the branch. Go to the restaurant next door to buy some wine and food. We'll go to Wudong Mountain now. The Lao Si agreed and went to buy wine and food. Madam O asked curiously, why are we going to Wudong Mountain again? Last time, you, Yanming Jusher, Wan Qingjiu and Tan Yefeng were drinking wine and discussing heroes at Wudong Mountain. Could it be again this time? Openg smiled and said, yes, I didn't have enough fun last year. Of course, I have to continue this year. Not long after, the Lao Si bought the wine and food and then drove to Wudong Mountain. The Dragon God Temple was at the foot of Wudong Mountain. Not long after, the carriage arrived at a place where they could climb the mountain. There were also some wine shops and inns in this place. Openg and the others booked a few rooms and arranged for Madame O and a few maids to rest. Openg took the Lao Si and walked up the mountain path. Wudong Mountain was not too high, and it was not the season to climb the mountain. There were not many tourists. Openg used his qigong to walk in front. Although the Lao Si practiced external martial arts and also carried wine and food, he was not much slower than Openg on the mountain path. Not long after, Openg reached the top of the mountain. Then the Lao Si also came up. Looking at the Lao Si's calm and steady breathing, Openg could not help but mutter in his heart. Although he had only used 30% of his qigong, he was good at qigong. This 30% of his qigong was already very impressive in the martial arts world, but the Lao Si was not much slower than him. It could be seen that the effect of this bone strengthening pill was extraordinary. At this time it was almost noon. The top of Wudong Mountain was bathed in sunlight and was very warm. Openg looked under the tree at the top of the mountain. No one had come yet. Openg called the Lao Si to walk under the tree. He sat on the stone and let the Lao Si place the wine and food he bought one by one in the open space under the tree. Before the Lao Si finished placing the wine and food, Openg heard footsteps coming from the mountain path. He stood up and saw a short and strong man coming up from the bottom of the mountain. It was the Wanjian Peak's swordmaster, Wan Qingjiu. Openg stepped forward and bowed. Brother Wan, how have you been? Wan Qingjiu leaped to the top of the mountain and returned the greeting. Sect leader, came really early. We agreed to meet at noon. I thought I was early, but I didn't expect someone to come even earlier. Openg said, I came a little earlier to arrange the wine and get drunk. Wan Qingjiu said, Sect leader is meticulous. I admire you. So the two walked under the tree and chatted. After a while, the sun in the sky was about to hang above their heads. It was almost noon, but the other two still hadn't appeared. Openg and Wan Qingjiu couldn't help but think, could it be that something happened? Just as they were thinking, they heard a voice from the bottom of the mountain. Brother Tan was half a step late. This little brother has won this round. It was Yanming Jusher's hearty laughter. Openg and Wan Qingjiu smiled at each other and turned to look at the intersection. They saw Yanming Jusher's thin figure appear on the path to the top of the mountain. A middle-aged man with a medium build and dressed like a rich man also climbed up the mountain. It was the Tan family's patriarch, Tan Yefeng. Chapter 37. When the four met, they greeted each other. Wan Qingjiu asked, Why do you say that, Brother Yanming? Yanming Jusher smiled and said, Brother Tan and I met at the bottom of the mountain. When we saw that it was almost time, we made a bet to see who would reach the top first. It seems that I'm the early bird that reached first. Openg smiled and said, Brother Tan's strength isn't in light body technique. You can compete with him in martial arts later. Yanming Jusher waved his hand and said, I know that. I can't beat him. But today we're only talking about wine and not swords. Chief, oh, you're disappointed. Tan Yefeng also spoke. Brother Yenming has the upper hand in this bet. I'll drink 3 big bowls in a while. O Peng and Wan Qingji laughed and said, Brother Tan is a straightforward person. Come, Brother Yenming, Brother Tan, this way please. Everyone came to the bottom of the tree and saw the stone ox standing there like an iron tower. They asked curiously, Who is this brother? O Peng introduced, This is the stone ox, a disciple of the Misty School. Stone ox, come and greet Yenming Jusher and the Tan family's patriarch. The stone ox came over and greeted them. Everyone praised and said that the Misty School was really full of hidden talents. O Peng also humbly denied it. Then O Peng let the stone ox guard the entrance to the mountain to prevent people from going up the mountain. Everyone sat down. Tan Yefeng first picked up a jar of wine from the ground and poured it into a porcelain bowl. He said to Yenming Jusher, Watch carefully, I'll drink first. Then he put the bowl to his mouth and drank it all in one gulp. Then he drank another bowl. When he drank the third bowl, O Peng said, Brother Tan, we'll drink with you too. After saying that, he also poured a bowl. Yenming Jusher and Wan Qingjiu also agreed and poured a bowl each. Everyone clinked their bowls and drank it all in one gulp. Then they put the porcelain bowls on the ground. Tan Yefeng was the first to speak. Brother, oh, you're really thoughtful. I came in a hurry, and seeing that it's getting late, I've already forgotten about the food and wine. I'm sure Brother Yenming has the same thoughts as me, right? Yenming Jusher said awkwardly, That's right. I didn't expect there to be so many people in Dragon God Temple. It took me a bit of time to arrange for my family members, and in the end, I ended up delaying my own matters. Wan Juqing laughed heartily and said, I didn't waste any time, but I also forgot about these minor details. But Chief O is here to help us. It's fine as long as we have wine to drink. There's no need to say so much. O Peng also said, Brother Wan is right. It's fine as long as someone is prepared. Why should we care about who it is? Come, let's drink again. Everyone laughed heartily and drank another bowl. Tan Yefeng was the first to speak. Everyone, although there aren't many tourists on Wudong Mountain right now, it's not like there aren't any. Letting the stone cows guard this intersection is only a temporary solution. I think we should return to the main topic and discuss things earlier. Once we've settled the important matters, how about we drink and chat merrily? Yenming Jusher also said, I have the same intention. O Peng said, Then how about we first confirm the next time we enter the secret area? Wan Qingjiu also nodded in agreement. Tan Yefeng said, But according to the booklet, we can only enter on the 15th of the first lunar month every year. Yenming Jusher said, Brother Tan, don't worry. According to my speculation, the booklet said that we can only enter on the 15th of the first lunar month for 2 reasons. First, it's because of the formation formed by the jujube trees outside this secret area. A passage will only appear on the 15th of the first lunar month every year, allowing people to enter. Second, only the sunlight on the 15th of the first lunar month can accurately indicate the location of the entrance. Before I entered last time, I've already made marks on the 2 jujube trees near the entrance, so it shouldn't be difficult to find the location of this entrance. I've never heard of a formation in the martial arts world that can change with time. Moreover, there are so many days in a year, so the formation can only pass through on a specific day. This is too unbelievable. Brother Wan, your faction has been passed down for a long time, and you've encountered many things in the martial arts world. Have you encountered such a thing? Wan Chengjiu and O Peng looked at each other and shook their heads, but O Peng said, Although we haven't encountered it, and the ancient books in the faction haven't recorded it, the formation is indeed lost in the martial arts world. We can't be sure that this formation doesn't have the function of a time limit. The 4 of them did not speak. After all, none of them had any attainments in formations. There was no such talent in the faction, and there might not even be such a person in the entire martial arts world. How could they make a decision? Tan Yefeng said, Then there are only two ways now. One is to wait patiently until the 15th of the first lunar month next year, then organize people to enter. The other is to find time recently to send a few people to explore the path and see if we can enter. What do you think? Wan Qingjio said, "The matter of obtaining the treasure in the secret land is of great importance. There can't be the slightest mistake. Last time, we secretly sent the second-generation disciples there. Although we kept it a secret in advance and didn't leak the news, we can't guarantee that the other factions haven't heard of it. In order to keep it a secret, I suggest that we don't try it rashly without being absolutely sure. Otherwise, if the news is leaked, this secret land won't be the secret land of our four factions, but the secret land of the entire martial arts world." Peng also agreed and said, "There are no secrets in the martial arts world. Maybe our meeting at Wudong Mountain this time has already fallen into the eyes of someone with ulterior motives. Presumably, there are already people secretly watching us on this mountain." Yanming Jusher said, "Are we just going to wait for a year in vain?" Peng said with a smile, "Brother Yanming, you don't know the value of salt and rice until you're in charge. Our faction's actions in the martial arts world can't be compared to your family's power. The composition of our faction is complicated, and it's inevitable that the good and the bad are mixed together. It's very difficult to really do anything in secret. We have to be very careful." Wan Qingjio also nodded in agreement. Yanming Jusher still didn't give up and said, "Since you all have such intentions, then I'm going to find a time to explore the secret land again. What do you think?" Wan Qingjio and Peng frowned at the same time. Only Tan Yefeng was expressionless, as if he had already known that Yanming Jusher would have such an idea. Peng saw Tan Yefeng's expression and asked, "What does Brother Tan mean?" Tan Yefeng coughed and said, "In fact, I also have this intention for a long time. I want to explore the secret land before the 15th of the first month of next year. If Brother Yanming didn't mention it, I would have suggested it to you." Wan Qingjiu lowered his head and didn't speak, as if he was thinking. Peng said, "Before deciding whether to go to the jungle or not, I have a proposal to discuss with you and see if it's feasible." Everyone looked at Peng strangely, waiting for him to speak. Peng said, "I suggest that we form an alliance and advance and retreat together in the treasure hunting of the secret land." Yanming Jusher shook his head and said, "Our villa can't form an alliance with your Misty School and Wan Jianfeng. The Jianghu affairs you participate in are too complicated. There are often gang bloody battles. After forming an alliance, it's not good for the development of our villa." Tan Yefeng also repeatedly agreed. Peng said with confidence, "You two have misunderstood. The alliance I'm talking about is a little different from the alliance I usually talk about. First, it's not an alliance between gangs. There's no need to participate in the Jianghu affairs between each other. Second, this alliance is purely an alliance between the four of us. Although the four of us can't share weal and woe with each other, we can form an alliance to advance and retreat together in the secret land and enjoy blessings together. Third, this alliance is limited to the secret land and doesn't involve other aspects. What do you think?" Wan Chengjio said with joy, "Leader really has a bright mind. This idea is good. Let's do it." Yanming Jusher and Tan Yefeng also smiled and agreed. So, Peng poured a porcelain bowl of wine, cut his finger with a sword, and dripped blood into the wine. The other three did the same. Peng took the porcelain bowl, shook it slightly, and drank a few mouthfuls. Then he handed it to Wan Qingjiu. Wan Qingjiu still drank it. Then Tan Yefeng and Yanming Jusher all drank the blood wine. Yanming Jusher smashed the porcelain bowl. Everyone laughed and said, "The alliance is a success." Everyone drank another bowl of wine together. Peng then said, "Since Brother Yanming and Brother Tan insist on going, Brother Wan and I will naturally advance and retreat together with you. How about this? At the end of this month, we'll still send disciples to the same place as last time. Brother Yanming will still lead the way. How about it? Yanming Jusher said, no problem. This is my duty. However, this time, do we still send each other's family members to each other's place? Oh Peng, Wan Qingjiu and Tan Yefeng looked at each other. Oh Peng said, last time was the first time we cooperated, so we didn't feel at ease. Now that we've formed an alliance, we naturally feel at ease. I don't think there's any need. Wan Qingjiu and Tan Yefeng also agreed. At this time, the stone cow walked over quickly and said, Gang leader, there are a few tourists coming up the mountain path from the foot of the mountain. Should we stop them? Oh Peng waved his hand and said, this Wudong mountain isn't our home. Of course. We can't stop others from coming. You don't have to guard it. Just wait here. After saying this, the four poured wine and talked about the strange happenings of the Jianghu with the food and wine. They seemed to be in a leisurely mood. Not long after, a few people came to the top of the mountain. It looked like they were really tourists. After touring the mountain for a while, they saw people drinking and chatting in this picturesque place. They felt disdain and didn't stay long before going down the mountain. Wan Qingjiu asked O Peng, could it be that we're being paranoid? O Peng smiled and said, these people aren't, but we can't say that there aren't any at the foot of the mountain. These people know that we're all from the Jianghu and have sharp eyes. How could they come up so easily? O Peng suddenly thought of something and asked Wan Qingjiu, the news of the secret plane must be kept secret. We can't relax in the slightest. Where is Situ Ping of the evil tiger gang now? Wan Qingjiu smiled and drank a mouthful of wine. Brother, oh, don't worry. Although I'm not as meticulous as you, I still know this. Leader, Situ hasn't left Wanjian Peak since she returned with my disciple last time. I've already ordered an elder to accept her as a disciple. Moreover, I've also sent a few capable men to Lu Town. Leader Situ won't be Leader Situ anymore, but Wanjian Peak's Situ Ping. 0. Chapter 38. O Peng asked curiously, what do you mean? Wan Qingjiu smiled and said, if Situ Ping wants to cultivate my 10,000 Swords Peak's martial arts, she naturally has to stay in the 10,000 Swords Peak for a long time. This 10,000 Swords Peak is quite far from Lu Town, so it's naturally inconvenient for her to deal with the matters of the gang. As her martial uncle, I naturally have to do it for her. I have already sent the elite disciples of the gang to Lu Town to take over her evil tiger gang. This kind of small gang, I am only taking care of it for Situ Ping's sake. O Peng heard this and only smiled. Brother, one really is working hard for your disciple. However, in his heart he said, this old fox, he's still trying to act innocent after taking advantage. Wan Qingjiu also said, isn't it to protect our secret? Otherwise, why would I be willing to take over this kind of shit? Everyone said, then it's really been hard on Brother One. Let's drink a bowl. After that, everyone no longer talked about the secret plane, but talked about the blood of the pugilistic world, romance, and everything else. Only when the food and wine were finished did they split up and go their separate ways. However, they all tacitly agreed not to talk about the treasures they obtained in the secret plane and the improvement of their martial arts. Far away, in a secluded mountain village between Lu Town and Pingyang City, in the same manner that took up a lot of space, there were two people sitting in a large hall in the north. One was a skinny young man, and the other was a middle-aged man whose hair was a little white. They were the evil tiger gangs Situ Liang, hall leader Situ Liang, and Zhao third brother, hall leader Zhao. The two of them were currently drinking tea with their brows furrowed. Hall master Zhao drank a mouthful of tea, but did not seem to be able to taste the tea's fragrance. He heavily placed the teacup on the table and asked Situ Liang, Hall master Situ, it's been almost a month since there's been any news of the gang leader. We don't even know if he's dead or alive. What should we do? Situ Liang said unhappily, Hall master Zhao, what are you saying? How can you say such inauspicious things during the new year? Hall master Zhao immediately said, embarrassedly, I'm not in a rush. Pay, I take back what I just said. As he said that, he spat on the ground to show that he was taking back what he just said. Then he said, "Without seeing the gang leader, no one had a good year. Who knows what our future will be like?" Situ Liang comforted him. "Although the gang master isn't in the gang, aren't our evil tiger gang's members still here? Everything should be the same as before. It's not like we've wiped out the gang." Hall Master Zhao chuckled and said, "Hall Master Situ, you're also saying inauspicious words." Situ Liang was stunned for a moment, then he also spat on the ground and said, take it back, take it back. This is truly annoying, making me speak without thinking." Hall Master Zhao said, it's fine. Isn't everyone worried about gang leader's safety?" Situ Liang continued, "In the past, there have been situations where gang master went out and didn't return, but there would still be news coming back. Furthermore, the time he went out was only a few days at most. Now it's been so long. Could it be he really—" Situ Liang didn't dare to say any more. Hall Master Zhao continued, "Hall Master Situ, when gang leader isn't here, it's the New Year. Most of the gang's members are at home, celebrating the New Year. So there aren't many things to do in the gang. Seeing that the New Year is about to end, everyone will be coming back. There are a lot of things to take care of as well. If there is still no news from gang leader, then it doesn't seem too good. At the very least, there will be people's hearts wavering." Situ Liang nodded and said, "That's right. We need to have an agenda so that there won't be any large fluctuations." Just as they were talking, someone came to reporting to Hall Master, "There are 7 people rushing towards us from 10 li away. It seems like they're from Jianghu." Situ Liang was stunned. He looked at Hall Master Zhao and said, "At this time of the year, who could it be? The gang that were on good terms with already came here before the New Year. How could they know about this place if they're not familiar with it? Could it be that they're just passing by?" Hall Master Zhao said, "Perhaps. However, could it be that they're here to cause trouble for us?" Situ Liang shook his head and said, "The numbers aren't right. If they're here to cause trouble, how could a mere 7 people be a match for our entire evil tiger gang? Although most of the gang members aren't in the gang, there are still a few dozen of them." Hall Master Zhao was also confused and said, "Then why are they here?" Situ Liang said, "Let's just wait and see. We'll keep an eye on them first and see if they're here for us. However, we need to make preparations to welcome them. Someone notify the brothers in the gang to make preparations to welcome the guests. Also, prepare signal fireworks. If there's a need, notify the brothers that aren't in the gang to come back and help." After half a cup of tea's worth of time, another person came to reporting to Hall Master Situ. "Those 7 people are about to reach the entrance of the village. There isn't a large group of people behind them." Situ Liang stood up and said to Hall Master Zhao, "Let's go. This road in our village only allows people to enter and not exit. It seems like they're here for our evil tiger gang." Hall Master Zhao also stood up and said, "Let's go, we're going to welcome the guests." These 7 people really did come quickly. When Situ Liang and the others arrived at the entrance of the manor, the sound of their horses' hooves could be heard. Looking from afar, the 7 people were all dressed in black, and their faces could not be seen clearly. Only when they got closer could everyone see that the 7 people were of the same height, but they were all different. The one at the front was a young man with delicate features. He was as skinny as Situ Liang, but he carried a large sword on his back. They only saw them arrive at the entrance of the manor and dismount together. Their movements were very nimble and uniform. It was obvious that they had been trained for a long time. When they dismounted, 6 people stood there holding the reins without saying anything. The young man at the front threw the reins in his hands to the person beside him and walked forward himself. He bowed to Situ Liang on the stairs and said, "May I ask if you are the evil tiger gang's Situ Liang Hall Master Situ?" Situ Liang also quickly bowed and said, "That is me. May I ask who you are?" The young man said with a smile, "This one is Chu Xiang Feng of the 10,000 Swords Peak. I have come under the orders of my family's sword master to deliver news about your gang master, Situ Ping." When Situ Liang heard this, he was shocked. This 10,000 swords peak was not something the evil tiger gang could afford to offend. When did the gang master have any relationship with the 10,000 swords peak? He said with a smile. May I ask if Xiaoxia Chu has any proof? Chu Xiangfeng did not get angry. He took out a token from his chest and handed it to Situ Liang. Situ Liang took it and looked at it. It was the gang master Situ Ping's token. He could not help but reveal a smile and said, It really is the gang master's token. Xiaoxia Chu, please come in for a chat. Please. However, he did not return the token to Chu Xiangfeng. Chu Xiangfeng did not seem to mind. The group of 7 followed him into the manor. The horses were naturally given to the evil tiger gang to take care of as they entered the inner hall. In the main hall, everyone sat down as the servants brought in tea. Chu Xiangfeng did not pick up the teacup. Instead, he took out a letter from his chest and handed it to Situ Liang, saying, Gang Master Situ has not returned for many days. The gang must be very worried. This is a letter from Gang Master Situ to your honorable gang. Hall Master Situ, please open it. Situ Liang smiled as he received the letter. He opened it and looked at the contents. His calm face revealed a bit of shock. After reading it, he handed the letter to Hall Master Zhao, who was beside him. Hall Master Zhao was also very surprised. After reading it, he looked at Situ Liang and nodded slightly. Situ Liang turned around and said to Chu Xiangfeng, Xiaoxia Chu, this token is correct. The words on the letter were also written by our gang master. However, the things in the letter are not things that we can immediately reply to. Can I ask Xiaoxia and the others to rest in our gang for a bit and discuss it with us? Chu Xiangfeng said, Of course. However, I ask Hall Master Situ to reply to us as soon as possible. After saying this, he stood up with the other 6 people. Situ Liang quickly had the servants arrange for Chu Xiangfeng and the others to rest. After Chu Xiangfeng and the others left, Situ Liang and Hall Master Zhao immediately had their subordinates release the emergency signal for the evil tiger gang to gather the upper echelons of the gang back to the villa to discuss how to deal with the situation. When the signal was sent out, the 2 Hall Masters finally let out a sigh of relief. Hall Master Zhao sat in the main hall. Situ Liang excused himself and returned to his room first. Situ Liang quickly walked back to his small room that was not too far away from the main hall. He turned around to take a look before pushing open the door and entering. This small room was very clean. There was a bookshelf near the wall that was filled with books. There was a desk near the window that was filled with brushes, ink, paper, and inkstone. Situ Liang walked in front of the desk and sat on the chair as he looked outside the window. The tree branches outside the window had already turned green and were swaying in the spring breeze. They were full of life. Situ Liang's eyes, however, swept past the signs of spring and looked at the white clouds floating in the sky. After a while, he shook his head and rubbed his temples. He took out Situ Ping's tablet and used the light coming in from outside the window to carefully examine it. Suddenly, he stood up from the chair and placed the tablet on the table. He quickly walked in front of the bookshelf and gently took out a few books. There was a small box behind the bookshelf. Situ Liang carefully placed the box on the table and opened the lid with one hand, revealing a small porcelain bottle inside. Then he skillfully picked up a brush and opened the lid of the porcelain bottle. He dipped the brush in some liquid and picked up the tablet with one hand. He used the brush to carefully brush a part of the tablet. Sure enough, on that small part of the tablet, 3 words gradually appeared. It was actually peaceful endurance. When Situ Liang finished tidying up the things on the table, the words on the tablet had also disappeared. He put the tablet back into his pocket and sat on the chair as he frowned and thought. In the time it took to eat a meal, the sky had already turned dark. Situ Liang was still sitting there without moving at all. At this time, someone lightly knocked on the door. Situ Liang replied, "Come in." Someone lightly pushed open the door and came in to report, "Hall Master Situ, Elder Chu, Hall Master Xing, and Hall Master Zhang have already returned. They are currently talking to Hall Master Zhao. Hall Master Zhao told me to inform Hall Master Xing, Sita Liang said softly. All right, I got it. I'll be there soon. Sita Liang waited for a while and seemed to have made a decision. Only then did he calmly stand up and tidy up the clothes on his body. Slowly he walked out of the room. The room was not very far from the main hall, but Sita Liang did not walk quickly. The path in the dusk was no different from usual. However, Sita Liang knew that the evil tiger clan today was different from the evil tiger clan of the past. 0. Chapter 39. When Sita Liang walked into the hall, there were 3 people whispering to each other. Hall Master Zhao silently sat in his original position and drank tea. It was as if he hadn't moved at all since Sita Liang left. Sita Liang's footsteps caused the 3 of them to stop talking. The 3 of them exchanged glances. The white-haired old man did not get up from his chair, but the other 2 stood up. One of them had a medium build and looked like a very capable man. The other was a slightly taller build and had a clean face. He looked like he was in his 40s or 50s. They walked to the center of the hall to welcome Sita Liang. The 3 of them greeted each other. Sita Liang asked, Hall Master Zhang, Hall Master Xing, how was your New Year's at home this year? The rich middle-aged man said it was all right. New Year's with my family is naturally interesting. Compared to Hall Master Situ staying alone in the gang, I feel a bit uneasy. Sita Liang waved his hand and said, I am alone. Isn't it the same wherever I go? Do you want Brother Zhang, who has a bunch of wives, to stay with me? I heard that Brother Zhang just found a young concubine before the New Year's. The capable man's face was a bit red as he hurriedly said, Hall Master Situ, you have wronged me. I am only a mortal. I cannot cut off my emotions and desires. I cannot compare to Hall Master Situ, who has received the teachings of an immortal. You can cut off your mortal fate and leave the world of mortals. Hearing this, Sita Liang said with a strange expression, Brother Zhang, do you think I am a monk? I am still preparing to find someone to carry on my family line. Hearing this, the 2 of them said, That's good. We have been waiting for that day. While the 3 of them were chatting, Elder Chu was getting impatient. He lightly coughed. Hearing this, Sita Liang quickly walked over and bowed. Elder Chu frowned and nodded, indicating for Sita Liang to sit. Only then did Sita Liang walk over to the chair across from Elder Chu and sit down. Before he could sit down, Elder Chu impatiently asked, Little Liang, is there any news about Pinga? This Elder Chu was an elder in the gang. He had basically watched Situ Ping and Situ Ping grow up. Normally, in the hall, he would call them Gang Master and Hall Master. Now that he suddenly called them by their nicknames, it seemed like he was very worried about Situ Ping. Situ Liang's heart warmed up, and he hurriedly said, Elder Chu, my cousin is fine. She is just temporarily unable to return to the sect. Hall Master Xing also asked, What is going on here? Gang leader has always been a steady person. Something must have happened this time. When I asked old Zhao just now, he wouldn't say anything no matter what. He wanted to wait for you. Hurry up and tell us. Don't keep us in suspense. Sita Liang nodded and took out the letter from his bosom. He stood up and handed it to Elder Chu. Elder Chu took out the letter and read it carefully. His brows furrowed deeper and deeper. After that, Hall Master Xing and Hall Master Zhang also carefully read the letter. After everyone finished reading the letter, the hall fell into a dead silence. Elder Chu was the first to speak, asking, Little Liang, this letter is real, right? Situ Liang nodded and said, This is indeed my cousin's handwriting, and the time matches as well. It shouldn't be fake. Hall Master Zhang continued, But this is strange. Why would Myriad Sword Peak accept the gang leader as a disciple? The gang leader has already passed the best time to practice martial arts. Now that she has joined the Myriad Sword Peak, how can she stand out? Hall Master Xing also said, The most suspicious thing is that the gang leader actually allowed the myriad sword peak disciples to temporarily manage the gang's affairs while she is away. What does this mean? Situ Liang also said, if gang leader joins the 10,000 swords peak, then we will naturally become a branch of the 10,000 swords peak. To our evil tiger gang, this can be considered a blessing from the heavens. However, the gang leader can't come back immediately. Could it be that she needs to cultivate high-level martial arts? Elder Chu frowned and said, our little bit of power to the myriad sword peak is like a piece of meat on a fly. Why would they care about it? They even let a few disciples take over. Aren't they placing too much importance on it? Hall Master Zhao was silent for a while before saying, there are too many suspicious points in this matter. We should at least let the gang leader come back and give a detailed explanation. Just by finding a few people and a letter, they want us to give our hard-earned territory to others. Isn't this just child's play? Situ Liang gave a bitter smile and said, then what should we do? Can we not endure it? The word endure seemed to be especially clear. The rest of the people did not say anything. That's right, what else could they do? In front of absolute martial arts, any schemes or resistance would be futile. However, seeing that everyone was silent, Elder Chu asked, where are the myriad sword peak disciples? Situ Liang said, they've all been arranged to rest. They should have finished eating dinner by now. Elder Chu said, then let them come over for everyone to meet and discuss the details. Situ Liang nodded and sent people to invite Chu Xiangfeng and the others. Not long later, the 7 people from the Myriad Sword Peak arrived at the main hall. The people from the evil tiger gang came forward to greet them. After greeting each other, they sat down. Elder Chu said warmly, Xiaoxia Chu, we are in a remote area here and are lacking in things. I wonder if you can get used to it? Chu Xiangfeng quickly said, Elder Chu is too courteous. My generation has traveled the Jianghu, and it is normal for us to sleep in the wilderness. There is nothing we can't get used to in your gang. Elder Chu stroked his beard and said, that's good. Then he asked, can Xiaoxia Chu explain in detail the situation of our gang leader Situ? Chu Xiangfeng smiled and said, Senior Sister Situ is very fortunate. She was coincidentally chosen by our Myriad Sword Peak's Elder Yunfeng and taken in as a disciple. She is currently cultivating in seclusion at the Myriad Sword Peak. Elder Yun is a famous expert in our sect. I'm sure that Senior Sister Situ's martial arts will improve even further and enter the ranks of the Jianghu experts. As for the details, Chu is not too clear either. Everything will have to wait for Senior Sister Situ to return and ask her in detail. Chu Xiangfeng's words were watertight, and no one was able to get any clues from him. Seeing that no one was speaking, Chu Xiangfeng smiled and said, Chu is here on orders from my master to temporarily take over the affairs of your gang. May I know how the discussion went? Although these words were spoken to the crowd, Chu Xiangfeng's eyes were fixed on Elder Chu, who was sitting at the head of the table. Elder Chu saw Chu Xiangfeng's gaze and was about to speak when someone else spoke first. Young hero Chu wants us to listen to your commands with just a letter. How can we be convinced? Chu Xiangfeng turned his head and saw Hall Master Xing. Chu Xiangfeng asked, Hall Master Xing, what do you think we should do? Hall Master Xing said, no matter what, you have to get past me first and let me experience the swordsmanship of the Myriad Sword Peak. Elder Chu hurriedly stopped him. Hall Master Xing, you can't be so rude. Chu Xiangfeng replied, it's fine. It's a little inappropriate for us to make your faction obey our orders so easily. Since that's the case, I'll spar with Hall Master Xing for a bit. I'm sure that you'll be convinced of our superiority. Situ Liang hurriedly said, Xiaoxia Chu, Hall Master Xing, since we're all on the same side, let's not go to the practice field. Let's spar in the hall and not harm each other. Is that all right? The two of them nodded in agreement. Hall Master Xing shouted to the outside, bring my weapon over. Not long after, someone brought in a steel spear that was 8 jong long. It was Hall Master Shing's famous weapon. Hall Master Shing received the spear with one hand and shook it forcefully. The tip of the spear drew a few arcs in the air, and the long body of the spear emitted a woo-woo sound. The members of the evil tiger gang couldn't help but think to themselves, even though Hall Master Shing's figure has become chubby, he hasn't dropped his martial arts. In contrast, the members of the Myriad Sword Peak didn't seem to have noticed the commotion at all. Chu Xiong Feng unsheathed the large sword on his back and walked to the center of the hall with one hand. Hall Master Shing looked at Chu Xiong Feng and muttered in his heart. There were many swordsmen in the pugilistic world, but it was rare for one to use such a large sword. Furthermore, it seemed that the sword was quite heavy, and Chu Xiong Feng was able to carry it with one hand. While Hall Master Shing was deep in thought, Chu Xiong Feng spoke up. Hall Master Shing, please. Hall Master Shing didn't stand on ceremony and said, very well. Xiao She Chu, watch my spear. After saying those words, Hall Master Shing leaped forward and thrust his spear toward Chu Xiong Feng's heart. Chu Xiong Feng didn't seem to be in a hurry. He waited until the tip of the spear was right in front of him before taking a step forward and twisting his waist. Still holding his sword with one hand, he lifted it up along with the tip of the spear. Hall Master Shing immediately felt a powerful force coming from the tip of the spear, and his body couldn't help but sway to the side. Thus he stomped his foot and stabilized himself with a movement technique. Just as he was about to take a breath to regain his balance, he saw Chu Xiong Feng making use of the momentum of the sword to leap into the air. After reaching an extremely high point, he grabbed the hilt of his sword with both hands and swung it down toward Hall Master Shing. Hall Master Shing was shocked. He only knew how to stab and hack with a sword, but who would have thought that someone would actually use it as a saber? Grabbing the tip of the spear with both hands, Hall Master Shing raised his heaven-burning form to meet the attack head-on. In the blink of an eye, the sword and the spear collided, and a loud quang-dang sounded. Chu Xiong Feng's sword bounced off the shaft of the Damascus steel spear, and Hall Master Shing was forced to retreat 3 steps. Barely managing to stabilize himself, Hall Master Shing saw Chu Xiong Feng swinging his sword once more, making use of the momentum from the rebound to slash at him once more. Hall Master Shing couldn't help but feel bitter. There was no time for him to change his stance, so he could only raise his heaven-burning form to meet the attack head-on. However, with another quang-dang, Chu Xiong Feng's sword bounced off the shaft of the Damascus steel spear. This time, however, Chu Xiong Feng didn't follow up with another move. Instead, he stood there leisurely with the tip of his sword pointed toward the ground as he stared at Hall Master Shing. On the other hand, Hall Master Shing was forced to retreat 4 steps. This time, he wasn't able to hold onto the Damascus steel spear anymore. His legs went soft, and he fell to the ground. Unable to hold on to the Damascus steel spear in his hands anymore, he tossed it aside. When Hall Master Shing finally stood back up, he realized that the webbing between his thumb and forefinger had been torn. A wave of fear welled up in his heart as he muttered, I wonder how much strength is hidden in that skinny body of his. What a godly strength! It's fortunate that it was a sparring session, or else I would have been killed by the other party's attack. Seeing the ashen expression on Hall Master Shing's face, Chu Xiong Feng clasped his fist and said, I admit it. Hall Master Shing returned the gesture and said, I'm impressed. 0.